Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku framed by League of Villain. If you guys enjoy this movie, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story, Masters of Shadows from AO3. So let's start the video. The day hadn't even begun, but Izuku heard someone knocking on his door. The green-haired boy stood up and headed for the door. Midoriya, it was Eraserhead. Good morning, sensei, the green-haired boy greeted, confused. It was too early and his teacher preferred to give up his hero license rather than get up so early. What's wrong? Get dressed. We have to be in Mizu's office practically right now, he said in such a cold tone, but it terrified the green-haired boy. He nodded, took a quick shower and changed into his uniform, while being guided by his teacher, to the principal's office. Upon arriving, Izuku knew that something was very wrong, because right there, his mother was crying, while the teachers looked at him angrily. He felt how One for All was deactivated. What's going on? Izuku asked, confused, and when a furious All Might stood up, scaring the green-haired boy, Mizu acted even more quickly, turning on a television. This video, it's been leaked by one or more people at UA, Midoriya, the director spoke coldly, while a footage of Izuku talking to someone was seen. The day of the test at USJ, and before that, Izuku was seen entering UA, with a jump and was seen wandering through the halls. You are seen entering the teacher's room and turning on the computer, taking the information and sending it to someone. What do you have to say in your defense? I am not. All Might got back up and punched Izuku in the face, using enough force on his weakened body to draw some of the green-haired man's BLD and ingest it. Angry, Izuku kicked All Might, hitting him in his wound, causing the old man to spit out BLD. He quickly grabbed the BLD All Might spat off the ground and ingested it. I'm not a traitor, Toshinori. Clearly, you're the traitor. He was wrapped in Eraserhead's bandages and a small metal box was thrown at his feet by Power Loader. From it emerged a restrictive armor, a metal straitjacket. Good luck destroying that, Power Loader said, smiling and proud of his invention. It's titanium reinforced with tungsten. You'll never be able to escape from that, Midoriya-san. They will pay for betraying me, I swear, Izuku growled furiously, letting the police enter the room and take him away. Soon, Aizawa, All Might and Mizu went to communicate all this to the remaining students of 1A. All Might was worried. He didn't feel any different. He had not taken One for All from Midoriya's hands, as it has to be transferred by the longing of the current bearer to anyone else, so he immediately called the warden of Tartarus, to tell him to place Midoriya in a straitjacket, similar to All for One's. // slash dash slash dash / dash dash slash dash slash dash / dash. At the same time, Shigaraki stared at Toga as he stood up and walked towards the door. You did very well, stealing Deku's BLD during the provisional license exam and allowing us to film you like that, Tyoga-chan. The golden-eyed blonde nodded. I'm glad I was so helpful, Shigaraki-kun. So, what's the next step in all this? Midoriya-kun, he'll be on his way to Tartarus by now. I have to call the doctor, Shigaraki said, taking out his cell phone. I thought the doctor was captured by the heroes, he's a clever idiot. Said Spinner. Shigaraki looked at the phone in his hand and thought about Spinner's words. He know. They were there, when Shigaraki took control over All for One and the doctor was imprisoned. He told me, that, if anything were to happen to you, at any point to call a specific phone number. Prepare for the instructions we're going to receive. A smile appeared on his face, when he saw twice multiplying already. That had been useful in Daika City and it would be again, here. Shigaraki Tamura-kun, I can guess, said a voice from the other end. That's right, it's me, the villain began. Yeah. I know who you are, kid, the voice on the other end commented, which was beginning to irritate the villain. What can I call you? It was better to be on good terms with your I am Ishii, and if you call me, it is because the Nomus, both white and black, have been captured or destroyed, When 𝗳𝗏𝗃 was captured, said the man on the other end. You need men and I will give you your army. Do not move, you are about to be brought to my premises. 𝗵𝗃 thought about it for a minute. All of you, come closer, the boy ordered, and his companions came closer, together in time. A second, before a green circle surrounded them, being transformed into a green pillar of light. When the circle left, they found themselves in a new laboratory, and in front of them stood an old man with slicked back gray hair and a bushy beard. Welcome, 𝗵𝗃-kun. I am Dr. Ishii. At least it didn't come out of our mouths, he growled, and Dabi thanked him with a small smile. Shigaraki 𝗵𝗃-kun, here is your army. And with the push of a button on his keyboard, 20 tubes rose, revealing 20 people trapped in tubes and floating in liquid. Liquid that soon retreated, and the people woke up, coming out of the tubes, only wearing dark underwear. Here is your leader, Shigaraki 𝗵𝗃, successor of All for One. Shigaraki shivered as those 20 people looked at him, but he also knew that he now had an armed wing, aside from the clones of Twice and his companions. // slash dash slash dash / dash dash / dash slash dash slash dash / dash. When Izuku entered Tartarus, the other villains thought this would be easy. They thought they now had a new toy to hit. But Izuku still had one for all and full cowl, so he hit them with all his might, now without holding back, or caring about breaking the criminals' bones or even using them as human shields, so that other villains could kill them, or he himself decapitated them with punches, kicks, or the 𝗵𝗃-𝗵𝗃. Soon, with this situation repeating itself so many times a day, Izuku was taken to the deepest point of the Tartarus prison and locked in isolation, with armor that was a vague idea, over a straitjacket. Welcome, Midoriya Izuku, said a kind voice, and Izuku opened his eyes. He recognized the first wielder, as he had already seen him in his dreams, and he also recognized the fifth wielder from whom he won the 𝗵𝗃-𝗵𝗃. There were the 7 wielders in physical form and an ethereal form of all 𝗵. Toshinori slender. First bearer, fifth bearer, Nana Senpai. Izuku bowed not only to the 3 of them, but to the others, except for the ethereal form of Toshinori, to whom he gave a fu finger, making the second and third laugh. We need to discuss something important before you wake up, said 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏. It's a matter of your destiny, said the fourth. No. It's a matter of time, said 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏. I am Shinomori Hikage, and in your last fight against All for One and Shigaraki, you awakened my 𝗂𝗧, danger sensor. I escaped from All for One, while cultivating One for All. Then, I understood that I could not face it, and I only focused on strengthening it, as much as possible. Then, these marks that you could call scars appeared on my body. All of us had a 𝗂𝗧 before wielding One for All, except Yagi and you. All of us died, not by being killed in combat, but by old age. Nana spoke. Toshinori and you are perfect to be the users of One for All, because you are both 𝗵𝗃. But One for All has reached its peak, you are its last wielder, you will no longer be able to pass it on, it will die, when you die. And we don't expect it to be any time soon, said the sixth bearer. You have manifested 3 𝗂𝗧s, Banjos, Nanas, and Shinomoris, said the first bearer. In your generation, 𝗵𝗃 are very rare, only 20%, and if it continues like this, then probably you will be its last bearer, and One for All will disappear when you die. Nana spoke again. Izuku-kun, are you willing to kill 𝗵𝗃? Izuku's eyes widened. But he's your grandson, sensei. He was molded by All for One, Nana pointed out with great pain and sorrow in her soul, for what her son did and what her grandson had become. And we have discovered something important, Izuku-kun, said the second wielder. A man with short spiky salmon-colored hair, a large scar on the front of his face, which he received during his final battle against All for One, and wears a combat jacket with a large black collar, the brother of the first. He snatched his original 𝗂𝗧 from Nana's grandson and granted him disintegration. The father heard him, so that he would unleash the full power of his new 𝗂𝗧 and thus fulfill his agreement with All for One and return Tenko to him. having been turned into a soldier. Dash forward slash dash. Slash dash. Slash. Dash forward slash dash. When Izuku woke up in the morning, he went about his normal day, shower, put on his clothes, go through a search, go to breakfast, go to the courtyard. There he met 𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗃 and 𝗵𝗃𝗲, who recognized him, and he approached them. Sure, they were villains, but their ideals were what made them different. Dash forward slash dash. Slash dash. Slash. Dash forward slash dash. Dash forward slash dash. Slash dash. Slash. Dash forward slash dash. In the following days, many things were talked about on the news, especially about Endeavor's family and what led his son Todoroki to become the way he was today. Endeavor spoke deeply about the evil he committed against his family, how he caused his wife to go mad, how she hurt Shoto in a fit of madness, how he caused Toya to become a villain while he strived to be better and surpass All Might, just as Endeavor so desperately wanted. Hawks stepped forward and explained that Best Jeanist had survived, thanks to Hawk's attack, in an apparent betrayal of the heroes, when Hawks had supposedly allied himself with the Liberation Army. He explained how he himself had infiltrated and killed several villains in the attack on the hospital and the Liberation Army hideout. A video of Dr. Garaki was posted, explaining the creation process of the high gamma 𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗃, the black 𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗃, and the multicolored 𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗃. We have spoken with the government and the decision has been made, that the Shinketsu, Ketsubutsu, Cijin, and UA academies will be converted into shelters for all civilians, but mainly, the families of teachers, students and employees, said Best Genies. Locking ourselves in shelters is not the solution. We will not accept. In addition to the 6 hero academies, when Endeavor spoke, everyone fell silent. Many civilians and heroes who have 𝗂𝗍𝗂 of creation or construction, are a series of special buildings, which will be cemented in such a way that it will be practically impossible to destroy them and almost inviolable. But people no longer trusted heroes. The professional heroes had received a call from 𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗃 from the very inside of the Tartarus prison, informing them that some villains heard All for One whisper that he would soon meet with 𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗃. That corresponded to a warning of an attack against Tartarus, so they prepared to respond to the attack, with All Might following them. A worried All Might. An All Might who had already spent many nights without proper rest, in whom the dark circles under his eyes were spreading quickly. He had seen his ancestors, only the body, not their faces, and that only disturbed him even more, because it made them seem as if they had no heads, literally, and they cursed him. They cursed him, calling him traitor, calling him symbol of chaos. Symbol of betrayal. Symbol of lies. He had been given something resembling his past strength, though it was only a ghost of his strength, because if he had 100% before and having to alternate between his thin and strong form, now he would have 55%, this was perhaps 40%, and, in addition, they did not give him back his muscular physique. And every time he used One for All, he heard the ancestors insult him. So he concentrated on looking for criminals on the streets, in order to try to discover the location of All for One. But now, he had a chance to make up for his mistakes and get Midoriya out of there. That was only worse and more humiliating. Toga Himiko had deceived them. The blonde brat had toyed with them. And it was as if they had allowed this age of chaos by imprisoning Midoriya. The League made it seem like Midoriya had been the support of society and not Endeavor, so it was even worse for the current #1 hero. The League made sure that chaos reigned once Midoriya was imprisoned. And now, thanks to Dr. Ishii, everyone knew the recording where Toga transformed into Midoriya, and the rest was ancient history. Dr. Ishii made public the names of the ancestors and how One for All worked, proving that he had cameras to monitor the UA. What was worse, they did not know the face of this mad scientist. The man showed that Izuku had awakened in 𝗂𝗁𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗃 the hero lariat, and that, during the raid on the hospital, he awakened the float of the heroine Cloudy, showing that Izuku was more important than expected because he was, in the words of Dr. Ishii, the definitive successor of One for All. And they had imprisoned the symbol of salvation, Deku. And the beginning of the Age of Chaos came with the breach of Tartarus security. Just when Shigaraki attacked the prison. The humiliation for the heroes, during the attempt to stop All for One, inside 𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗃's body, who was trying to invade Tartarus, prevented the heroes from going to their 100% because now they knew that they were the ones who imprisoned an innocent man. Despite the rain, Endeavor's flames rose, as he looked at the 𝗵𝗃 in front of him. His vision sharpened, when he saw the criminal. 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗁. And he concentrated fire in his fingers. Karmic attack, Hellfire Storm. Endeavor concentrated a very high amount of flames in his right hand, which soon turned blue, and as he moved his arm, he formed a powerful tornado of flames that burned many 𝗵𝗃s. You dodged it. Dodge this, new number 1 hero, 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗁 said mentally, while manifesting another of his 𝗂𝗧𝗍s, creating sharp protuberances, which shot out from his hands and from the arm itself. 𝗵𝗃𝗁 the spear bones, went against the hero's 𝗂𝗃𝗁. Air cannon, 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗁 fired large blasts of air pushed from the palms of his hands. Incandescent punch, Hell's curtain. Endeavor threw both fists back as he concentrated all of his flames into a single point. He then threw his arms forward, emitting a massive blanket of flames over his opponent, which was absorbed by all for one, making the number 1 hero grunt. I formed a bubble of cold air, using frost, and that was what caused the illusion that I just absorbed your flames, 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗁 explained. Absorb this. All Might shouted, arriving thanks to a great jump, just like in 𝗵𝗃𝗁, when he was going to rescue 𝗵𝗃𝗁 Texas Smash. All Might throws a right punch with enough force that the pressure of the wind sends anything flying. Unless it's 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗁, who launched himself at him, trying to touch him, but failing, when All Might threw a kick to dodge it and rose into the air. He's not using Nana's 𝗂𝗧𝗍, he's just throwing kicks at the exact right moments, to stay in the air, 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗁 thought. Detroit Smash. All Might threw a punch towards the ground instead of a direct hit. The blow is powerful enough to create a large shockwave, which sent 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗁 flying, who destroyed part of Tartarus, just with his body. I hope that helps you. Touching the wall with his hands, he destroyed the wall, and soon, the 𝗵𝗃s sprang into action. 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗁 and the 𝗵𝗃s destroyed the security towers. A guard shouted. The system is not coming back. Another guard shouted. Inside the prison, All for One released a purple discharge. If I hadn't synchronized my heartbeat, my breathing, and my consciousness between the me in here and the me out there, the system is not returning. A guard shouted. The prisoner block is being opened. Another guard exclaimed. The containment squad has arrived, they're heading to the prisoner block, said the third, watching many armored guards pass by him. As the doors opened, the villains began to come out and the guards fired at them, but one of those released was the villain Muscular. Who's gonna fall for that CRP? A happy Muscular shouted, launching himself against the guards, massacring a dozen of them with a single blow. Just when we ran away, said Moonfish, who, without his suit, was a bald man, not so scary, although his 𝗂𝗧𝗍 did make him scary. The heroes entered at that moment, launching themselves against the villains, with best genies, 𝗳𝗏𝗃𝗁 and All Might, going to the front. 𝗳𝗏𝗃𝗁 ended the lives of Muscular and Moonfish, piercing their brains with astonishing agility. A hero with big muscles, light blue hair, wearing a cyan blue jacket and dark blue named Smoke, faced a bald, duck-billed villain named 𝗵𝗃𝗁, with both of them spewing gas from their mouths, and soon, those gases spread everywhere in Tartarus. But among the many cells that opened, there was 𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗍𝗔 cell, where the fusion of Smoke and 𝗵𝗃𝗁's gases arrived, to which was added the bodily fluid of the villain 𝗂𝐻𝗍𝗄, who was spreading it throughout Tartarus, only to cause more chaos, killing criminals, policemen and heroes. And all that managed to touch 𝗵𝗃𝗁, before he could escape from his cell, enveloping him in a golden light and then, in a grey cocoon, so quickly, that he couldn't do anything, until he became a statue of himself. Thanks to One for All, the process that should have taken 𝗵𝗃𝗁 several months was completed in seconds, and when he left his cell, he did so with a new physique and a new modality of One for All, absolute interior. Dash. 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 Dash dash dash. 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 Name, 𝗵𝗃𝗁. 𝗂𝗧𝗍, Last Legacy, One for All. Original 𝗂𝗧𝗍, One for All, fusion of a power accumulating 𝗂𝗧𝗍 and a transfer 𝗂𝗧𝗍. Update, Last Legacy, Fusion of One for All, 𝗵𝗃𝗃 and 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗃. 𝗵𝗃𝗃, Shifter, the second user's 𝗧𝗃𝗃. It allows the user to alter the speed of anything they touch, allowing them to accelerate the force of a target, either by enhancing the impact force of their own blows or by causing the target to lose control of their own speed. 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗃, the third user's 𝗧𝗃𝗃. This 𝗧𝗃𝗃 allows the user to accumulate and release kinetic energy through the repetition of movements in a short space of time. Other 𝗧𝗃𝗃s, contained in Last Legacy, 𝗂𝗂𝗃, Danger Sensor, the 𝗧𝗃𝗃 of the fourth user 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗃. This 𝗧𝗃𝗃 allows the user the ability to avoid disasters when they are too close or avoid attacks by lowering their guard, due to a warning from their subconscious. 𝗂𝗄𝗄𝗃, Black WHP, the 𝗧𝗃𝗃 of the fifth user 𝗣𝗲𝗿𝗺𝗺. This 𝗧𝗃𝗃 allows its user to generate a kind of dark ropes, which adhere to objects and surfaces, giving its user greater mobility in the area. 𝗵𝗃𝗃, Smoke Screen, the 𝗧𝗃𝗃 of the sixth user, 𝗵. This 𝗧𝗃𝗃 allows the user to create smoke screens that come out of his body in order to confuse the enemy or create a distraction. 𝗬𝗈, Float, the 𝗧𝗃𝗃 of the seventh user, 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃. This 𝗧𝗃𝗃 allows the user to hover in the air. // dash slash dash dash forward slash dash slash dash forward slash dash slash dash. Special move, Full Cowl. This technique allows 𝗧𝗃𝗃 to activate 5%, 8%, then 10% and 15% of one for all throughout his body, letting the power flow through him, externalizing as a green voltaic charge and marking him with red lines. Activating this technique gives him increased strength, speed, mobility, and agility. It also prevents him from breaking his bones when attacking. *Absolute Interior, Absolute Interior. This technique allows 𝗧𝗃𝗃 to activate the 𝗧𝗃𝗃 to a greater extent, up to 15% in a single instant, and keeping the power inside so as not to allow a power leak. Enveloping it in an aura of dark green wind. Dash. 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 Dash dash dash. 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 It wasn't a boy with tangled green hair who the heroes had gone to look for that came out, but a girl with green hair, totally unrecognizable to all those who had come to know Midoriya Izuku. She didn't go looking for an exit, but instead launched herself into the crowd of people trying to escape Tartarus, releasing a powerful shockwave as she landed in the middle of them with the Absolute Interior active. She quickly placed her hands on the ground and began to spin around, kicking the criminals. She stood up and started to throw punches left and right. He captured several of them with the 𝗂𝗄𝗄𝗃 and began to slam them against the walls, also against the ceiling and the floor, before returning them to their cells, then pushing the metal doors and closing them again. Thanks to 𝗂𝗂𝗃𝗃, he knew where All for One was. He activated Float and flew using Full Cowl as well, while dodging villains, fugitives and heroes, heading towards All for One's cell, where 𝗳𝗵𝗃𝗃 was already. She dropped several meters through a gap in the stairs until she reached the bottom and used 𝗂𝗄𝗄𝗃 to grab him and pull him towards her. What? Shigaraki asked, as he was pulled towards a girl. Who is she? He jumped to dodge his enemy. She was just a descendant of 𝗣𝗲𝗄, or so he assumed, another fugitive, but, he thought, looking at her, I see. So you want to become a heroine, is that it? His enemy quickly placed herself in front of him, while the 𝗂𝗄𝗄𝗃 quickly enveloped him, imitating a mummy, and not even the wind bullet could free him, beginning to hit him, with more and more force. Take advantage of the natures of the 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗃 and the 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃, while increasing the percentage of the Absolute Interior. He said to himself, while 𝗳𝗵𝗃𝗃's BLD began to stain the ground, without him being able to resist the 𝗂𝗄𝗄𝗃 and without his 𝗧𝗃𝗃s working, until the ground beneath him disintegrated and the two of them, along with All for One, fell into the sea. And since All for One was still wearing 𝗂𝗄𝗃𝗃's inhibitor collar, then he couldn't do anything against his enemy, nor against the power of the sea, beginning to drown, and it was more or less the same for the other two. 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃. I have to get out of here soon. She flew with Float and took Shigaraki with her, while expanding the use of 𝗂𝗄𝗄𝗃, in order to create a black fist, with blades on the tips of the knuckles and fingers. When she reached what she believed to be a good height, she dropped towards Shigaraki, being absolutely sure that she had him tied up and that he couldn't move from there. Last Legacy, Absolute Interior, Japan Fault 550%. Last Legacy, Absolute Interior, Japan Fault 550%, the punch directly to the face, did not have the result of the fight between All Might and 𝗵𝗃 6 years ago, leaving a scar and erasing his face. The 𝗵𝗃𝗃 girl hit with enough force to blow his skull off, and even if he could regenerate from that, she also destroyed the back of his neck. Last Legacy, Absolute Interior, Overlay Form, 𝗬𝗏𝗍 𝗂𝗃 Shiki, 𝗬𝗏 Fatality. Ultimate Legacy, Absolute Interior, Overlay Form, Style 1211, 8 Ladies, Fatality, generating black claws in her hands, she opened Shigaraki's torso and destroyed everything she saw there, before fainting. Tamura knew. All for one roared furiously from his cell, feeling the death of his other self and Shigaraki at the same time. It wasn't possible. It couldn't be that everything he had been planning, since he was imprisoned by All Might, had just been undone by that mysterious girl. You must live and get me out of this PSS. At UA, or more specifically, at High Alliance, the students of Class 1A were waiting for news from their teachers. They knew that Tartarus prison had been invaded by Shigaraki. When it was discovered that Izuku's whole supposed betrayal was a trap, they wished to go and get him out of there themselves, but they didn't come and said they would do it themselves. The door swung open with a bang at 5 a.m. They'll be going to school in 2 hours. They haven't slept. And SHT, it's time for F classes. We know that you've gone to prevent Shigaraki from entering Tartarus. Bakugo roared, what the F happened there, that you didn't let us go to help you? Bakugo is right, sensei, said Aoyama sitting on a chair, leaning forward. What happened? Didn't they take advantage of the confusion to beat up villains and bring Midoriya-kun? Midoriya is innocent, they should have taken him out, said Toru. Forget it. Bakugo growled, standing up while his teacher placed a CD in the DVD. The F prison must be in chaos right now and all the guards are like headless chickens. I'm going to get Deku myself. Before you do that, you should see this. Aizawa said, and everyone saw Izuku in his cell. As we all know, Izuku got his 𝗂𝗃 from All Might, the super strength of one for all, the super strength of 8 people, which broke his bones. But in these last few weeks, Izuku manifested the 𝗂𝗃s of the remaining OFA bearers. We all saw the black WHP out of control. During the fight against Shigaraki in Jaku, he manifested the float of All Might's teacher and, as he told Bakugo, the danger sensor of another user. They saw Izuku practicing with the 𝗂𝗃s and then being locked in a cocoon. All Might and I believe that this cocoon is something devised by the consciousnesses of the bearers within the One for All, so that he can manipulate the 7 𝗂𝗃s more quickly. Shouldn't there be 8, if we count All Might? Mina asked, tilting her head in confusion. All Might is a 𝗵𝗃𝗃, Bakugo revealed, crossing his arms and surprising them all. There was no 𝗂𝗃 to transmit to Izuku. And since we already know that One for All is a 𝗂𝗃 that is transmitted by the ancestor's wish, then I can only assume that one of the BSTRD spirits gave part of their power to All Might. Since Gran Torino and I are the ones who know about One for All, he, All Might, decided to trust us and confessed to us that they restricted him by 40%. The 𝗂𝗃s that Izuku has released are black WHP, float, danger sensor, adding physical strength. Deku should be out there, cleaning the streets, Aizawa-sensei style, but with super strength. In addition to the 3 you just said, All Might found information on the other 3 wielders, so Midoriya's 𝗂𝗃s are also added. Smoke screen, I think the name explains it. Shifter. This quirk allows the user to alter the speed of anything they touch, allowing them to accelerate the force of a target either by enhancing the impact force of their own blows or by causing the target to lose control of their own speed and FA gene. It will allow the user to accumulate and release kinetic energy through the repetition of movements in a short space of time. Aizawa added. A certain blonde boy with chicken yellow hair stood up and walked over to the window. But then where is he? Why hasn't he come back? And a violet-haired girl, who had accepted her feelings, played the video. His face was everywhere. If he decided to come back and resume his role as Deku, all the villains who are currently outside will know about him and want to run away immediately, as if he were All Might or Endeavor. At least, she took the remote and paused the recording in a minute before pointing at the screen. "Don't touch the screen, 𝗳𝗲𝗍𝗍 said. "I'm pointing, not touching, sensei," she said, offended, and everyone came closer. "I think we all see the same thing, right? Is it Midoriya?" Shoji asked, seeing who came out of the cell. "I think it was, that smoke that covered everything," Uraraka theorized. "Good thinking, angel face. She has a new face, she can be a heroine, since she has her license, so she wouldn't be doing anything illegal," said Shoto, trying to be positive. "Are you a lesbian, headphones?" Bakugo asked in a friendly way. Kyōka blushed. Why couldn't Bakugo just think before he speaks? It's still Izuku, that's all that matters. "In that case, let's clean up the streets and bring headphones his wife," Bakugo said, smiling, slamming his fist into his other palm, ignoring Kyōka's complaints. "Bakugo," Aizawa tried to intervene. "All of us here have provisional hero licenses, and there are hundreds of villains out there, that along with the chaos of Shigaraki being killed by Deku, is more than enough for us to be needed out there. Dash. Dash. // It was a rainy night, when Izuku found a group of criminals, who were buying support equipment from an illegal dealer, but she stopped them with full cowl and 𝗳𝗲𝗄𝗏, quickly kicking them and knocking them out. She caused a fire on purpose, to attract them, and seeing the dealer escape, she followed him. At that moment, Izuku was wearing a red checkered button-down shirt, which left her large feminine melons exposed and moving, and prison that did nothing to help her hips and big butt. She began to follow the dealer and grabbed some steampunk glasses, surely stolen by the dealer. Finally, she found where that guy was meeting, seeing how he approached a man who was getting off a ship and how several boxes were lowered from it, making him roll his eyes. Seriously, wasn't there a less cliché place to meet? The Deku girl used the absolute interior to approach the dealers, before capturing them all with 𝗵𝗃 and slamming them against the ground, until they fainted. She grabbed the phone of one of them and reported the merchandise, while grabbing some of the money from one of the subjects, and with the advice of the second wielder, Kudo, who advised her to take one of the armed slingshots and ammunition, to use her 𝗂𝗍𝗵𝗃 change lever, then she left there. "Finding you wasn't strong, young hero," a woman whispered to herself. "A fugitive from Tartarus. A fugitive whose right arm transformed into a sniper rifle and fired at the green-clad heroine. Finding Midoriya was easy, but now the difficult part for her would be to hit the shot, because Midoriya had the 𝗂𝗃𝗁𝗁 danger sensor, and jumped in midair, without a physical support point, surprising the sniper. "She is..." The green-haired woman immediately recognized that woman with violet and pink hair, Lady Nagant, that woman that 𝗵𝗃 claims is a better shooter than him. He saw her walk in the air, almost like she did. Of course, All for One must have given him a 𝗂𝗍𝗍. "I saw him use it during the fight against All Might in Kamino, and I remember having nicknamed it Airwalk." She shot again, and Midoriya used his slingshot glove, shooting too, colliding his gadget with Nagant's bullet. "She wants to capture me alive, right? But after I blocked that shot, she decided to get closer. And she'll keep getting closer, because now, I've blocked another shot. The first shot came from a curve with effect. The closer I get to her, the more intuitively she will be able to shoot me, and the greater the margin of success. In that case," she descended and landed on her feet. Sixth 𝗂𝗍𝗵𝗃. Smoke screen. The smoke spread very quickly in the area, and the green-haired girl began to run inside the smoke, while it extended towards Nagant, allowing her to use full cowl and jump from one building to another, quickly gaining height. Another 𝗂𝗍𝗍. Nagant wondered, slightly surprised, so she also has multiple 𝗂𝗍𝗍s, huh? I can't see him with the smoke. She growled angrily, then reasoned, it would be stupid to believe that she attacked from the front. She quickly turned around. Izuku climbed up to a third building and ran away from the smoke and Nagant, reaching her back. 𝗵𝗃𝗏. Where is she? If she's using the smoke, then I'll need a new type of bullets, to go through the smoke and make holes in the middle of it to discover her. Her bullets created a moderate amount of wind, leaving holes in the middle of the smoke, but the green-haired girl was nowhere to be found. Last Legacy, Full Cowl, Shoot Style, Manchester Smash. Izuku jumped into the air and turned forward to throw an axe kick. Nagant turned around and tried to aim at him. The Manchester Smash should go to her opponent's head, but destroying her rifle was just as good for the green-haired girl. Midoriya. Izuku. You're not what 𝗲𝗵𝗃 told me in Tartarus. She said smiling. This vigilante life isn't for you, be a hero. Touch her forehead with your right hand, 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗍 said, and Izuku did so. Extracting something inside her. The first one informed, while Izuku felt as if he had a sea inside him, a 𝗂𝗍𝗂 of self-destruction. She's safe, I have her. Hawks appeared at that moment, catching her. I'm Hawks, I'm your successor, I also work for the Public Commission. Please, tell us what you know. He talked about a mansion in 𝗵𝗃𝗶𝗀𝗺 forest. There were so many people there, apart from me, Nagant said, only to realize. Am I still alive? Dash. 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 The heroes confirmed that such a mansion did indeed exist, but heroes such as Hound Dog, who had great sense of smell and hearing, explained that they smelled explosives, gunpowder and gasoline. There was a very slight scent of humans, but that scent was fading quickly. At that, All Might and Midoriya, who never uncovered his face, nor spoke out loud, since the fight against Nagant, launched long-distance attacks with air pressure, destroying the mansion and causing the explosives to do their thing. Therefore, no one was hurt and 𝗲𝗵𝗃's plan failed miserably. Before the heroes and teachers of UA could try to apologize to Izuku for locking him in Tartarus, he left. Maybe because I didn't want to see their faces. Maybe to continue cleaning the streets. But it seemed almost obvious that Midoriya Izuku was no longer under that mask. At least, not the one they knew. And a shiver ran through All Might, as a wild theory came to his mind. Was it Midoriya 𝗧𝗵𝗃 who was there? What if it wasn't him, but a 10th successor? He thought it impossible with the awakening of the 𝗂𝗍𝗂s, but knowing that there was a female body, covering that tattered suit. Who was the Deku in the 𝗵𝗃 suit? But then, Inko began, being gathered with the students of Class 1A and their families. The woman was really trying strong to keep her anger aside. If you met Izuku in that attack, why didn't you bring him with you? Does he at least know that he's not being hunted anymore? No one answered, not even All Might or the heroes chasing him. No, Inko-san. Aizawa said. We explained to the president of the Hero Public Safety Commission everything that happened, and in 1 hour, the man looked at his watch, only for his eyes to widen in astonishment. Turn on the TV. So Shoji did. I am the president of the Hero Public Safety Commission, Miss Yandere. Thanks to the president, I order martial law. The heroes, soldiers and police in service to the country, have full permission to attack with lethal force the escapees of the Tartarus prison. Only one person should not be attacked, an innocent who was imprisoned and, despite what many believe, is not an illegal vigilante, a girl with green hair in 2 large pigtails. Dressed in steampunk glasses, a gas mask, a green torso shirt, black short sleeves, a yellow scarf and black. Knowing that Izuku was out there, Class 1A joined All Might, Endeavor, Kamui Woods, Deadshot and Eraserhead, both to fight the escaped villains from Tartarus, and to bring Izuku back to UA. But on the streets, chaos reigned, and not only because of the villains, who had turned Japan into their playground, but also because of the terror of the civilians, who had acquired their own artifacts and were defending themselves. Dynamite, Katsuki, almost hesitated to use his abilities, unless Creati, Tentacle, Tenya and Uravity swore to him, Sometimes, they had to tell him up to 5 times that they were sure that they were only facing gangs or criminals, so that the red-eyed blonde, along with the hardened-skinned redhead, were the first to attack the criminals, and then, they were followed by the other members of their class. On one of those days, they swore they had managed to see her in the distance. The female version of Izuku, for whom Earphone Jack's heart began to beat, while a blush rose to his face. Far in the distance, protecting a tall woman with a mutant 𝗬𝗂𝗧𝗍, being some kind of shark girl or a kitsune. They went towards both of them, both to help that civilian, and to talk to her friend, but the second one was very fast and left, long before 𝗵𝗃𝗵 could reach her, even when 𝗬𝗏𝗍 removed her gravity. Finally, they helped that citizen, who explained to them that she was attacked by those people who were beaten on the ground, after not being able to get to a shelter in time. And they guided her to the shelter that the UA became, while Kyōka, Katsuki, Momo and Ijiro tried to get any information possible from the girl they saved, about the heroine who helped her. An escaped girl from Tartarus was appearing in the news and was being catalogued as a hero, an innocent who was wrongly imprisoned, and a heroine with a provisional heroine license. Her physical appearance was currently known, thanks to a member of the riot police, who was on the mission to go to the mansion, possessed a 𝗬𝗂𝗧𝗍 which allowed him to extract images from people's minds. Tanaka Hiroki, and his 𝗬𝗂𝗧𝗍 was called Mind Soul. Thanks to him, the new female appearance of Midoriya Izuku, now named Deku, was known by the news and hero forums and UA student forums. A girl with green hair and 2 large pigtails. Dressed in steampunk glasses and a gas mask, a green torso shirt with black short sleeves, yellow scarf and black. It was a school day, and Class 1A was already in the classroom. They were waiting for Aizawa to arrive. But they hated being in class while Midoriya was out there, alone, without backup, destroying villains. "It's good that now, everyone knows it's Midoriya," said a now calmer Mashirao, showing a smile that didn't reach his eyes, nor his soul. Everyone knew that it was a forced smile. "I know what you mean," Momo said, looking at a Kyōka with dark circles under her eyes, who was writing in her notebook very compulsively, tearing out pages and rewriting, creating a small mound. "We are heroes, we have the licenses, we should be out there." "I agree with you," Yaoyorozu Bakugo said. He was one of the ones who had changed the most with Izuku's imprisonment. "As long as we keep an eye on All for One and he remains in prison, then the burden on Midoriya's shoulders will be lessened. But it would be even better if we were out there, truly helping her, bringing her to you. That's what a new artifact is for, which I've asked 𝗵𝗃𝗃 for." Momo said. Everyone looked at her. A part of her mind made Momo remember the time and how Aizawa hadn't entered the classroom yet. Some kind of straitjacket and a containment box, to bring her in. She has more than one 𝗬𝗂𝗧𝗍, it's not just super strength anymore. The worst thing is the danger sense. "Jiro's wife will sense us coming," Mineta said, and everyone agreed with him. "How is it that will our wife feel us coming?" Jiro asked, frowning. Which didn't help much, given her bright, longing eyes and blush. "I'm a pervert," Mineta admitted, crossing his arms, "but it doesn't mean I can't read people, especially women. In our 3rd combat class, you stood by his side and smiled the whole time. You also encouraged Midoriya in classes with Aizawa, asking him for help in classes with Midnight, modern art, asking him for help with 𝗵𝗏𝗄, modern literature, and ectoplasm, mathematics, even though you knew that Yaoyorozu was 10 times better than Midoriya in those classes." Momo, Shoji said, "What do we need to capture her and bring her back?" "𝗵𝗃𝗃 will have some gloves for you in 2 days." Momo said, looking at Shoji, who just nodded. "The transport cell is already finished, but not just anything, it could withstand a United States of Smash from All Might, so I was chatting with 𝗵𝗃𝗃 and 𝗵𝗃𝗏, creating from scratch, a new metal, an alloy of tungsten, iridium and diamonds microscopically embedded in that metal alloy, to build a restrictive armor and a cell above. That's why you see me so pale and with dark circles." A yawn was enough for her to find 3 slices of cake on a plate that came out of nowhere. She looked at her brown-haired partner and very thick lips, making her smile. "Thank you, Sato-san. When are we going to look for her?" Rikido asked seriously, without moving from Momo's side. "Today." Bakugo said decisively. Tonight, more specifically. The door opened, Aizawa entered the classroom, the chatter died down and the class began. Today, we will be looking at forms of evacuation and simultaneous combat. So everyone, head to the Xeno training grounds. Dash. 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 Everything went wrong for them, relentless classes, hundreds of lectures, homework raining down on them from the heavens, and they were forced to wait 2 weeks before they could start patrolling the streets and looking for any trace of Midoriya. Sometimes people didn't know anything. Even the fugitives didn't have any clues. Some villains refused to talk, and Kyōka tortured them with a very strange knife. When Todoroki's threats didn't work, they were forced to separate the violet-haired girl from the thugs. Terribly scared, told them rumors of the sightings. If your terrifying friend had found me, you wouldn't be talking to me, but I would have returned to Tartarus, right? Dash. 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 They spent 2 weeks searching for Izuku, torturing and interrogating criminals and sending them to the newly rebuilt prisons, helping civilians get to the safety of UA, which was now a safe haven. Soon, people started hearing about a new anti-heroine, who was killing criminals. All they knew was that she wore a jacket and a gray hood. It was Kyōka, desperate to find the person she loved. I don't know if you two, you're staining your hands with BLD. But I don't want to lose you. Earphone Jack monologued to herself. She had gone out more than 4 times and always returned safe and sound to her room in United Alliance. I want to find you, hug you, embrace you, confess my love and not let you go again, at least for you to take me with you. A smile appeared on her lips. I don't know if I'm lesbian, bisexual or pansexual. Maybe the latter, because only you are capable of making my heart beat at this frequency. Midoriya Izumi, also known as Deku, was fully aware that she had been pardoned and exonerated of the charges that had been brought against her so many months ago. Several high-level political figures came out in front of television cameras on the main news and political channels, publicly saying that she, now approved Deku, a nickname that did not bother her, was a heroine, who was just doing her job, just like other heroes such as Endeavor, All Might, Kamui Woods, Cyborg Mirko, Hawks, among many others. The Japanese president admitted that there was no longer a clear distinction between students of a hero school, high-level heroes, mid-level heroes, and low-level heroes, and potential vigilantes. They were all allies of the state, as long as they were working to bring about a new era of peace. This put a smile on the lips of all the members of UA's Class 1A, who continued to search for all possible clues about Midoriya Izumi to bring her home. Dash. 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 And while they managed to locate Izumi, in another part of the city, a hooded girl, dressed in a jacket, a simple top that didn't have much to cover, 𝗳𝗏𝗄 that lifted her perfect buttocks, was in front of a gang of criminals, who were now on the ground. Many, if not all of them, were bleeding, unable to stop the bleeding. The girl, under the hood, could be seen 2 earlobes shaped like headphone jacks. I think my husband has been located, said the girl. I have to get out of here soon and meet up with my friends. Then, she turned to look at the lion, who was lying on the ground. Give me everything you know. You wouldn't be making all this up, without a greater objective, and clearly, you are not Yakuza, nor are you ordinary drug dealers. You better tell me, what the hell is it that is done in this place? We have processing and packaging plants for the creation of a liquid chemical, which we have called 𝗵𝗃𝗃, Dream World, said the lion-headed man, holding his injured arm, because of that girl. She was too good, and that knife, it was not the typical regulation knife, which Grandpa would have in his closet of precious memories. It is a forbidden knife, in the Great Wars. The liberators of supposed tyrannical governments always managed to get their hands on them. Where did you get it from? That thing is terribly forbidden in this country. A friend of mine, she creates things, she said. Anyway, goodbye, and remember. Your killer was 𝗵𝗃𝗃, the pained ghost, and she cut his throat with her special knife, letting the guy bleed out, while she called the drag crime service and made the request, before leaving that old house. Dash. 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 A few hours later, a girl with violet hair, black eyes with small, triangular irises, and an appealing mutant 𝗂𝗍 that turned her earlobes into electrical outlets, joined the rest of her class. When they managed to locate that female version of Izuku, she was fighting that hunchbacked man, who could manipulate people. But he hit them with a force, which Ida estimated to be perhaps 2% of one for all. "I'll take down the hunchback, you guys get everything ready," 𝗬𝗍 said, while camouflaging herself, but a hand was placed on her shoulder. "You have a part in this plan," 𝗳𝗃𝗃 said. "A much more important part. I will take care of them." "Go 𝗳𝗃𝗃," Momo said from her position. Down there, Izuku was facing a horde of civilians, who were being manipulated by that hunchbacked and terrifying-looking criminal. But they were like zombies and noticed that there was someone else there. 𝗳𝗃𝗃 didn't waste any time and attacked the gathered criminals with her hand-to-hand knowledge, taking away Izumi's charge. 𝗵𝗃 𝗵𝗃 Black WHP, reptilian detector, the black WHP multiplied and all the subjects were grabbed by the neck, except one of them. One who was tied up by the hands and legs. 𝗳𝗃𝗃. She saw him moving very quickly towards her. Dark shadow to the west and Ida perhaps with Uraraka's 𝗂𝗍, 𝗳𝗃𝗃 was scared, because she didn't see him activate the full cowl and that was unusual for him. 𝗳𝗍𝗵𝗃 𝗵𝗃𝗃 Ono. Absolute interior, death axe, Izumi kicked 𝗳𝗃𝗃 with great force, terrifying everyone, before kicking Ida and Dark Shadow exactly the same, leaving them both on the ground. What the F was that? Bakugo roared in disbelief. Not only because of the type of kicks Izuku had just connected with his classmates, but because of the force implemented behind it. Not only was that not the full cowl, but it doesn't look in the least like any of his special moves. "My turn, apparently," Shoto said. "I'll go with you," Mineta and 𝗬𝗍 said, to which the red and white-haired boy nodded. Gaten Hyohiki, sky-piercing ice wall, Shoto formed the wall and in it, the transgender boy was trapped. "You won't run away from us Midoriya, I'm sorry." "Todoroki Shoto the MSTR's best friend," she said. "What did he say?" Momo asked through the communicator. "Todoroki, Azui, Mineta, what did he just say to you?" "It used to be a battle between one for all and all for one. But look around you," the masked girl told them. "Look at the chaos you've caused and what only I can remedy, with the blessing that has been bequeathed to you." She destroyed the ice with full cowl, before jumping, even when she was trapped by Mineta and 𝗬𝗍's tongue. 𝗬𝗍, despite the pain, threw Midoriya or whoever she was, against a building, where they had placed the trap of the straitjacket, fused with the box. "You won't be able to escape from here, Midoriya," a perverted boy with blonde hair and glasses warned him. "Kaminari Denki aka Charge-Bolt, the electricity user. Izuku-sensei told me about you and your 𝗂𝗍, she said, trying strong to confuse them, to make them believe she was a 10th wielder and not their friend. As she enveloped herself in the inner absolute and began throwing punches at the box, she saw Denki charging up with electricity. The box was destroyed and Denki unleashed his volley. Just as she was about to flee, she was caught by Tentacle. "You're not leaving. You have some answers to our questions." Tentacle, the user of the 6 arms Grand WHP, pain kick. The girl spun around and launched a spinning kick, which released a powerful wave of slashing wind, severely injuring Tentacle and Charge-Bolt. "Izuku!" Bakugo shouted, now too exhausted to keep up, his body was giving in to the limits of the explosions he could create. "I'm sorry for everything. I'm sorry for despised you all your life. Heroes don't regret things of the past, Kaken." The girl said, and that gave a smile to the whole class, at the slip. It almost made them believe that she was a 10th bearer. But the nickname couldn't be transferable. Yes, it was him. That girl was Midoriya. "I'm in love with you, Baka." Kyōka shrieked, blushing deeply, "Don't you dare leave me." While everyone waited to see if that would make her turn around, they saw some kind of laser fall from above, on her and soon, with air walk, there was a man looking at the UA students. It's time to fulfill 𝗵𝘃𝗲 𝗷𝗵𝗏's last wish and kill you all. A man no older than 30, dressed in a very elegant violet suit with golden touches, with purple hair and orange eyes. The UA students saw that girl, being totally convinced that it was their friend, having been affected by a strange 𝗳𝗍𝗍, who stopped running away, when he saw that guy take action and talking about all for one. The students of the UA, said the guy, the girl, the teacher was talking about, who was a female version of Midoriya, and a smile appeared on the violet-haired guy's lips when he recognized the red-eyed blonde. Oh, look at that, 𝗵𝘃𝗲 𝗵𝘃𝗁. And who are you? Ochako asked, already prepared to attack the guy. With the step to 2A, she learned to not only remove gravity from people, animals and objects. She also learned that she could add gravity, but only to herself, so she was ready to give the guy an all-might-style punch. After Shigaraki Tomura, now dead, and the 𝗵𝘃𝗲, still imprisoned, I am the third user of all for one, said the subject. Let's see how long you can last. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 shouted, launching himself at the guy at high speed, thanks to his explosions. Blast Rush Turbo, Cluster. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 wait, we don't know what he can do. 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗃 shouted, launching himself at the guy, only to notice something. Am I faster? Not exactly, 𝗬𝗏𝗍 said into her sword, smiling at him. You're just lighter. Recipro Turbo, Nitro. 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗃 was going at high speed towards his enemy. So much so that he needed to concentrate. In order not to lose sight of his enemy, he had to concentrate on where he was standing, where his companions were and where he wanted to reach his enemy. I'm going so fast that I feel my skin and armor heating up. The brunette jumped off her friend's back and used her newly discovered ability, adding gravity to things. Added gravity, World Fist. 𝗬𝗏𝗍 exclaimed with a smile. 𝗵𝘃𝗲's explosion shattered the villain's energy shield and sent him flying. 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗃 appeared behind the guy. Recipro Turbo, Kick, World of Pain. As he named the attack, he didn't waste any time and began to throw kick after kick at the guy. He sent him straight towards 𝗬𝗏𝗍, who punched him in the cheek, sending him to his right, thanks to his new movement, which allowed him to add gravity to his blows. Kuroki Kana no Ananri. Melancholy of Dark Arms, 𝗬𝗍𝗵𝗃 𝗵𝘃𝗃 expanded Dark Shadow's arms, just as he saw his enemy was going to attack 𝗬𝗏𝗍 and crushed his target with them. Special movement. The subject said, now wrapped in Dark Shadow's claws, who lifted him into the air, towards there, Charge Bolt, Red Riot, Sugarman and Earphone Jack went. It's easier to just attack the enemy, but Dark Shadow's claws couldn't contain the subject's 𝗳𝗍𝗍, which was like hundreds of spears with tiny protuberances coming out of it. Even so, the users of electricity, hardening, sugar and earphone jacks weren't stabbed, only by a few centimeters, and used the 𝗳𝗍𝗍 to continue climbing towards him. This is a 𝗳𝗍𝗍 that I stole from my mother at BRTH, and that my 𝗳𝗍𝗍 evolved, the all-for-one, allowed the evolution of the bone screw. Red Riot, Unbreakable. Red Riot reached the maximum level of hardening by turning his entire body extremely strong and resistant, leaving him with a monstrous appearance and practically invulnerable to most forms of attack, including bone spears, which he himself was destroying. He could only maintain this form of armor for about 30 to 40 seconds. But he was going fast enough to catch up to his enemy. Red Gauntlet. He gave 2 strong blows to the intestine, breaking even more bones. Denki wears on his right forearm a marksmanship gear, a device that fires pointers, and contains a dial that allows Denki to choose which pointer he wants his electricity to be directed at in case multiple pointers are set up. He threw 6 pointers at his enemy. Musabetsu Ichoden ni Hyaku Man Baruto. 2 million volt discharge, Charge Bolt, Denki, is able to increase the output of his indiscriminate discharge to 2 million volts, though this causes his brain to short-circuit faster. All for one let out a cry of pain, as electricity ran through him, even more so after Red Riot's brutal punches. Sweet Hits, Sugarman, 𝗏𝗏𝗏, with an extremely high amount of sugar in his BLD, unleashed all his punches against All for One, all of that followed by Red Riot's blows and Charge Bolt's electricity. Sharp Black Claws. The female version of 𝗍𝗍𝗃 wrapped her hands and arms with the 𝗍𝗏 𝗵𝗃𝗃, creating sharp black claws, cutting through 𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗀's torso, making him scream in pain. 𝗂𝗃𝗂𝗁𝗃, danger detector, instantly rose and the green-haired girl immediately stepped back, as fire erupted from the villain's torso, while Izumi quickly stepped back. 𝗬𝗂𝗁𝗃 Kasetsu. Light refraction, Toru bent light through his invisible body, blinding those nearby. Can't stop twinkling, supernova. After charging his naval laser for 5 seconds, Aoyama can release a laser much more powerful than usual. This move is a giant laser beam with a much wider diameter than usual. The subject formed a shield, which received Aoyama's attack. Aoyama's attack, in which Toru crossed, he used his special movement again and the laser emerged with a diameter 10 times larger and its energy was even greater and the shield was destroyed, as if it were glass and his enemy received it with everything he had. Laser cannon mutation, flaming hell, solar flare. 𝗵𝗃𝗀's body mutated, his face grew longer and longer, his arms lengthened and mutated, creating a rectangular and twisted figure. Black fire emerged from 𝗵𝗃𝗀's body, being dodged by the teenagers. A flash of light and Momo had created something similar to a guitar sound amplifier, but as large or even larger than the one he had managed to create in the provisional hero license exam. Combo movement, super sound amplifier, heartbeat surround. That was almost an invisible response to his fire attack and 𝗵𝗃𝗀 felt it. Minato beads. Necklace of 10. Everyone's eyes widened at Mineta's bravery. Using the extreme rigidity of his quirk, grape juice stacked multiple units of his spheres together, creating a WHP-like shape that he used to trap his opponent. The chain of spheres now attached to his body distracted him. Deku attacked head-on and enveloped the 𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗁, black WHP, overloaded with last legacy, making them more resistant, almost as if they were rocks tied around his enemy's neck, and then used 𝗵𝗃𝗀, smoke screen, so that his enemy could not see where the next attack was coming from. That attack was from 𝗧𝗱, releasing his flames at full power and burning the villain's body, who had to concentrate on healing the burns and looking for a way to get rid of those spheres. Then came Aoyama's laser beam, burning the villain even more, making him scream and focus on healing those wounds. But the teenage heroes didn't rest and now went for Tentacle, who was carrying Ochako, the brown-haired girl, on his back, using her Kyōsei for the last time, only to faint and be caught by 𝗧𝗱. Tentacle decided not to waste that her friend had given her so much weight and used her move, Octoblow, manifesting hundreds of thousands of arms at once, allowing her to unleash a rain of blows with her physical strength increased tenfold, thanks to Ochako's increased gravity. When he was exhausted, Izuku rose up with Nana's Kyōsei, to cut off his breathing with 𝗵𝗀𝗀𝗁 and prevent him from attacking anyone else, at which Bakugo released his explosion of nuclear hell. The explosion created considerable damage to 𝗵𝗃𝗀's body, failing to heal the burns from the explosion, nor the serious injuries caused by his enemies. And he forgot the most important and the worst. Capital Punch, Washington Smash. Izumi had risen into the skies, almost as high as she had raised 𝗵𝗃𝗀, only to launch herself at him, hitting him in the face with all her might, managing to hear the bones of the man's skull break, and when they both touched the ground, they released an immense cloud of smoke. Midoriya! They all shouted. Izuku Kyūen! Ochako and Kyōka shouted, coming closer. There, inside the oozing crater of the last blow, was her friend, next to the villain's corpse, BLD bathing her. Did we make it? She asked, unconsciousness winning the battle. We did it, Izuku-chan, said Kyōka, happy to see her still alive, not caring about the remains of the villain now definitely dead, nor did she care about the BLD bathing the girl. Rest. She hugged the green-haired girl closer, totally exhausted and bloody. You did it. Seeing that she was unconscious, they decided to take her to UA. At that moment, many police officers arrived, including All Might and Aizawa. But before Aizawa could punish them, they said that the guy was 𝗵𝗃𝗀. At that, All Might received a call from Tartarus, with a guard informing him of what had just happened to 𝗵𝗃𝗀, who was being watched day and night. First his heart stopped beating, then his skin suddenly wrinkled, as if he were an old man, and then he became thinner and thinner, until he was absolutely emaciated. The guard said, scared and at high speed, it was horrible. Then, his skin turned to ashes and only his skeleton remained. Let's go back to UA and bring Midoriya with you, Aizawa ordered, after having heard what happened in Tartarus, because All Might accidentally hit the speaker. Dash. 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 While unconscious, 𝗬𝗍𝗵 received a message from the former bearers. Now, all the Kyoseis were his, because with All for One dead, the One for All also had no reason to exist, since 9 people made it their mission in the world to defeat All for One and he was definitely dead. Everyone watched through security cameras across the country as All for One's new body was destroyed thanks to the vigilante heroine Deku and the rest of Class 1A. We did it, huh? Shoji said. He was the one carrying 𝗬𝗍𝗵, who was very exhausted after the fight against All for One. It seems so, good job, said Toshinori, who had gone out to look for them in a school bus, which they all got on. Shoji laid her on Kyōka's legs, as the violet-haired girl asked him to, and was caressing the green-haired girl's hair, while they went to UA, managing to destroy All for One, even when he had changed bodies. We will make sure that this ends up in the history books. Everyone heard Midoriya's laughter and turned to look at her, but Denki spoke first. I already called Mrs. Ida. Stop calling Mei-chan like that, she's not my girlfriend. A very blushing Ida stood up and started moving his arm with his typical robotic movements. But everyone ignored him and took Kaminari's words as if they were the most absolute truth. And the wedding back there? Todoroki asked, pointing to where 𝗬𝗍𝗵 and Kyōka were. And you too? 𝗬𝗍𝗵 asked, with a sly smile, looking at the ice and fire user, sitting next to her first friend at UA. Should we call you Tadachako? Urivistim, Ochako and Shoto said at the same time. Only to realize their words, blush and look away from each other, while the rest of the class made fun of them. In a few hours, the director will announce the defeat of the second All for One and the death of the original All for One. That was 13, speaking on All Might's phone, who put it on speaker. There is still a lot of crime on the streets, so it is not safe to leave the shelters yet. We have to build another prison and send the recent escapees there. 𝗬𝗍𝗵 said. We can't trust Tartarus, it's been compromised, even with 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗃 dead, the original AFO and the one we defeated. We have to prove that the streets are safe again. Everyone is celebrating around here. A man just gave a speech and others join him. They agree to bring Midoriya, but they are taking out the things to cook food and I think it will become chaos. 13 said with a cheerful voice. Dash forward slash. 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 Dash slash. When they arrived at UA, there was a smell of food, and there was a lot of commotion. They entered and 𝗬𝗍𝗵 was immediately hugged by Inko, then by Kota and Eri, then by a civilian with a kitsune face whom she saved. Further afield, the heroes and teachers were trying to control the situation at a mega barbecue that the civilians were preparing. Many civilians approached Inko and 𝗬𝗍𝗵, who sat next to her mother. The woman listened, a little overwhelmed, to the experiences of all those civilians, some with normal appearances, others with mutant appearances, about how Deku saved their lives either while he was in the UA or while he was acting as a vigilante. Kota and Eri didn't move from 𝗬𝗍𝗵's side. Kyōka blushed, approached with her parents and introduced herself as 𝗬𝗍𝗵's girlfriend, and told how she was never able to accept her feelings, or tell the green-haired girl, the rocker the hero fanatic, while asking for forgiveness, for not having looked for clues before her imprisonment. Soon, the teachers and the principal also apologized. Dash forward slash. 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 Dash slash. When everyone arrived at High Alliance, while Inko laughed, Kota and Eri watched and could only blink at how strange the girls were acting. Water at 42 degrees. Uraraka ordered, carrying a weightless 𝗬𝗍𝗵 to the bathroom. Strip her. Her clothes flew off, at Mina's order, just as she entered the bathroom. Wash her. This jade-haired female version was just wondering where they got so many hoses from. Momo, perhaps. Put her in the water. Hagakure ordered. There's no need to be so rough with her, Kyōka said, moving closer to where 𝗬𝗵𝗲 emerged from. By the way, we forgot to tell you before, 𝗳𝗃𝗃 said. We discovered that 𝗬𝗵𝗲 was the traitor. 𝗬𝗵𝗲 turned her gaze to 𝗳𝗃𝗃, with a clear, "What did you say?" on her face, totally shocked by such a revelation. Like you, he was also born 𝗵𝗃𝗃 and his parents have many shady businesses that AFO had a hand in. That's how they contacted him. He gave him his 𝗂𝗃 and he leaked everything. USJ, the camp, even told them about the festivals, but AFO, apparently, considered that they wouldn't be a good idea, because they were full of heroes. And when AFO was defeated by All Might in 𝗵𝗃𝗲, he believed that would be the end. That he could live a life in peace. The attack on the Liberation Army happened, and since he was now 𝗵𝗃𝗃 Tenko, then they told him that he should continue reporting to him, just like he did with Tenko, but he didn't want to continue down this path anymore and he reported to me, so that I would follow him, find out everything. I reported to Aizawa-sensei and we arrested the three of them. They have no way of communicating with AFO, but he reported to them. AFO is dead, the purple-haired guy and 𝗵𝗃𝗃 Tenko himself, all three are dead. 𝗬𝗵𝗲 said, as she finished bathing. They all went out and took the towels to dry themselves and went to the lockers, to look for their clothes and dress casually. They went out and ran into their male classmates there. We still have a lot of crime on the streets, so that will be our next step starting tomorrow. Well said Midoriya, Ida said. Everyone go to sleep. We won't have classes tomorrow, but we'll use our leave. Class 1A gathered in the basement of High Alliance, where 𝗬𝗵𝗲 was. Despite being a prisoner, he didn't seem to be in bad shape. He had clearly been given food and was freshly bathed, combing his hair when they arrived. Thank you all for agreeing to this meeting. It must be very important, if you ask to meet, Momo said. The sudden drop in the value of the yen forced Japanese companies to declare bankruptcy. Coupled with the coordinated uprising of the villains, it has caused it to spread across the world. Currently, the entire planet is in the midst of a crisis similar to the Great Depression or the PRD around the appearance of the 𝗂𝗃𝗃. Unemployment, loss of faith in the currency. Lacking faith to implement long-term policies, Japanese society became a fight for short-term security. 𝗬𝗵𝗲 told them, with a seriousness very unusual in him, nations are abandoning Japan and prioritizing their own security. I'm listening to the international news and just a few minutes ago, it was reported that the United Kingdom, Germany, and Spain are falling into chaos similar to ours, with their own villains coordinating to escape from those prisons. You heroes, you have to take charge. I know that I'm asking you for something very dangerous, but after the hospital raid, some heroes, like 𝗵𝗃𝗃, among many others like Yoroi-Musha or Knuckle Duster, ended up quitting. We'll be leaving in a few minutes. We'll kick a lot of criminals, Bakugo said. We'll make many neighborhoods safe again and people will return to their homes. Dash. 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 The fugitive was spotted in the southern part of the city, said a voice on the radiocom of two 𝗳𝗵𝗃𝗃 boys, Shindo Yo and Nakagame Tatami. Go to your designated areas. Let's talk quickly with those who remain, Shindo said. They are very stubborn, it won't be easy to convince them, Tatami said, extremely worried. You're right, they must be very stubborn. Yo showed a dazzling smile, which surprised Tatami, so I will negotiate with a smile, like joke-sensei. Within a few minutes, they were finally inside the wrecked building, which served as a shelter. Police, heroes, and now you send children. It's useless, get out. It's dangerous for you to stay here. Yo was really trying strong to convince them. You know as well as we do that food and goods won't last long. Ketsubutsu Academy has become a villain-proof shelter, and we have far more resources. You can come and take refuge there. But the man who spoke, acting as the leader of the refugees, let out a humorless laugh. What if the villains decided to go where there was a higher density of refugees? I taught a lesson to several who attacked my store, said 𝗂𝗃𝗃. We have opened our eyes, the leader said. We will protect our city. I will never again put my life in the hands of another. They can repel those who only seek money or goods, common thieves. But serial killers or enemies, they are something else, said Yo, increasingly worried about these people. They alerted us that there is one, near here. Those who escaped from Tartarus only seek to cause harm, no matter who. Leave, right now. The subject's tone froze their BLD and they quickly retreated. As they left, they received the call, the fugitive has been seen very close. But they did not lack time to react, but a blonde-haired, muscular man, covered in muscle fibers appeared right at that moment and knocked down the building with a blow. Are they just brats? No, he remembered Izuku, he was a brat and he defeated me. He launched himself against both of them, but the boy pushed the girl who accompanied him and was pushed against a building. He could feel the brat in front of him, trying to hurt him. This is not fun. Shindo managed to touch him and make him vibrate just a little. It's useless, brat. I'm under an armor of 12,000 layers of pure muscle fibers. Are you sure about that? Shindo caused a greater vibration. Heroes must have a heart that never gives up. In that case, brat, you'll be the first to try my. The muscle fibers multiplied non-stop, around the subject's left arm, resulting in something beyond grotesque, due to the massive disproportion, reminding Shindo of All Might's fight against All for One. Sanai Matsuri, Tatsuzan no Shibo, Fibrous Festival, sudden death, but something touched him, he felt the blow and was sent flying, far from his prey. I received a hit, even with the Sanaishitsu no Yoroi, fibrous armor. Muscular. The villain looked closely at the one who had hit him. He remembered the green lightning cape, but this didn't match that female voice he was hearing right now. He was seeing her in front of him. She was only wearing a green shirt, green hair in pigtails, black a yellow scarf and a gas mask. This explains why 𝗂𝗃𝗁𝗃, danger sensor, went crazy. Sanai Wyoroi, 𝗂𝗵𝗃 𝗧𝗵𝗲. Fiber armor, BLD festival. But as he threw himself at the mysterious girl, who was now carrying her victim in her arms, he saw his world disappear and was enveloped by an astonishing amount of violet smoke, and now he could not see his enemy and his prey. 𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗃, smoke screen, 𝗂𝗃𝗁𝗃, danger sensor, to dodge his attack. If he decides to try to hit me, even if I'm blind, Fuyu, float, to move out of the smoke. Counterattack him with the, he threw himself at him, dodged the fist, 𝗬𝗓𝗄𝐺, 𝗬𝗓𝗍𝗪. Black WHP, straitjacket. Izumi paid no attention to his enemy's complaints, no matter how much his musculature increased, and instead, he reinforced the amount of black WHP, to make sure that it didn't move or couldn't continue expanding, causing muscular to scream in pain. 1000. 0.99%. 1,099% of the last legacy to knock him down. The punch did indeed send muscular to the ground, where he remained, after being hit directly in the face, with his neck and head turned backwards in an unnatural way. You did what you had to do, ninth, said the fourth user, Shinomori Hikage, while Izumi left with, serial killers like him, deserve the death penalty. The refugees in the building brought a stretcher and carried Shindo to one of the vans. Dash. 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 Izumi handed muscular over to the authorities. Or what was left of the serial killer. The police thanked Izumi, seeing muscular's death as necessary in the long process of returning the world to normal. They asked him to continue protecting Japan. Dekiru and Earphone Jack spent many hours talking. Thanks to the violet-haired girl, Izumi understood that there was much more to the life of a hero than just going to fight crime, even if society was falling apart. She then began taking classes with Kyōka to learn how to play the bass, which seemed to release the tension that Izumi had been carrying during her time as a fugitive from Tartarus and hunting fugitives and other criminals. In addition to music lessons, Izumi helped Kyōka a lot with jogging, running, and weightlifting training. She taught her not only hand-to-hand combat, but also offered her a special move that she had thought of for her a long time ago, accumulating sound waves in her arms, but without releasing them through the speakers she had on her forearms. But she could use the accumulated sound waves to throw punches of super strength, although obviously, they were not comparable to the fists of Rikudo or Kirishima. The green and purple couples slowly grew closer and became intimately close, even to the point of going out to patrol the streets together. During one of those patrols, the girls had the bad luck that their survival instinct abandoned them, when they heard screams a couple of blocks away and followed the screams. They followed the smell of BLD running into the villain moonfish, massacring all the civilians in that neighborhood. Heroes like Native or 𝗵𝗃𝗃 were now on the ground bleeding out or even missing a limb. 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃. 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃 was the first to attack, having plugged her headphone jacks into the amplifiers on her forearms and releasing sonic waves, sending Moonfish flying. Moonfish launched his teeth at 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃, but 𝗬𝗂𝗃 stepped in the way and pulled his arm back. Absolute Interior, Manhattan Smash. It wasn't just one punch in the air, but two compressed air bullets, one for each punch, destroying Moonfish's kilometer-long teeth, who ended up crossing the street and nobody really cared that they destroyed a house. Great feast, carnivore business. Moonfish got back up and went on a direct attack, creating more teeth to attack the pair of young heroes. But 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃 was no ordinary heroine. She would not fear what her enemy could do. 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗁. 𝗬𝗂𝗃 looked at her, eyes wide, until he could discover that Kyōka released sound waves and that stopped the advance of Moonfish's attacks. Absolute Interior, Los Angeles Smash. 𝗬𝗂𝗃 leapt into the air and came down with a double kick, with 25% of the last legacy previously charged, destroying his enemy's teeth. Violent Sonic Punch. 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃 delivered a powerful punch to Moonfish's head and sent him flying into a wall. People came out of their homes, and upon seeing how the two young heroines had defeated those two guys, they began to applaud and howl excitedly. Following their instructions to find shelter, they followed them until they decided to detour to the 𝗳𝗍 Heroine Academy. Considering that they had just done an excellent job, defeating Moonfish and taking the refugees to a better place, the pair retreated to the UA. But 𝗬𝗂𝗃 and 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃 were not the only members of Class 1A who carried a provisional hero license. Teaming up, Steel, Tetsu, and Red Riot, 𝗳𝗍𝗄, went out to patrol the streets. Both to imitate the example of Midoriya and Jiro, not wanting to allow only their friends to become famous, and to enforce their provisional hero licenses in this chaotic time and bring safety to the masses. And they had been out for 2 weeks, to take people to safe places and to arrest criminals. But it would be almost 9 weeks later, when the Hardened Boy and the Steel Boy would see in a television store, that 2 blocks from where they were, the residents of a building were kidnapped, in the hands of a man whom 𝗳𝗍𝗄 knew. It was the villain who allowed him to debut as a hero and who earned him the recognition of his personal hero, now retired, Crimson Riot. The Riot Police were trying to find a safe way to do this, but they did not know the number of hostages, although they did know that the subject was on the 3rd floor of the apartments, where he was holding the largest number of people. Steel approached the police, but they were ignored because of their age. The friends looked at each other and Red Riot just pointed with his thumb towards the fire escape, which they used to enter the first apartment and free its occupants. They repeated the same system, in each of the apartments and on each floor. The civilians were retreating, and from what the 2 young men could hear, it was only one criminal. They found some 𝗳𝗵𝗃𝗃 bombs and thanked Fourth Kind for knowing how to defuse them. So they took this more seriously than they had expected, going floor by floor, apartment by apartment, telling all the families or singles that they were hostages, that the villain was distracted, a lie, and to escape immediately. The 2 of them went step by step, searching and locating the 𝗳𝗵𝗃𝗃 bombs and quickly deactivating them. This guy had the money and the underworld connections to be able to buy so many of these things. But at best, he was a lousy attempt at terrorism. His creations were very rudimentary and very low level. Steel even joked that they should arrest him for nothing more than building bombs of such low level compared to what they currently knew. They found the criminal on the top floor. They could almost believe that they had made a mistake and that he was an actor from some B-series action movie, except that the redhead knew the evil attempted criminal who was in front of him. "So it's you, huh?" Red Riot said, startling the villain, who was in his own thoughts. The guy turned to look and let out a war cry, throwing his knives at both teen heroes. Unbreakable wall, strengthened. Upon fortifying himself, the redhead received his enemy's knives head-on, which didn't hurt him. Instead, they hit the redhead's skin strong. "I think you've improved a bit since our last encounter, because now, your knives extend a lot more than just 5 centimeters, and I don't think it's thanks to Tigger. I've got this, Steel. Find the hostages, I'll take care of it." "Are you absolutely sure, Red Riot?" Steel asked, unsure and worried. It was obvious that his friend had some kind of history with this criminal. Yes. I've already won this fight, the redhead assured, with a big smile. The subject began to laugh and gave a crazed look to the two young men. Do you claim to have this fight won, hero? He brought his right hand to his face and covered it, only leaving his left eye visible, which was oozing with anger and longing for 𝗵𝘃𝗲. Do you not know who the dangerous 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗁 is? He brought his left hand to his right shoulder and his right hand to his left shoulder, while he hunched over a little. 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗁 no Kyōka 𝗳𝗿 terror of the world of swords, omnidirectional stabbing, he said, then his torso in the air and pushed it towards the two heroes, sending an incalculable number of swords at them. Red Riot, unbreakable! Kirishima exclaimed. The criminal's eye widened. Is that you? Strengthened bunker wall. Steel said loudly. Both teenage heroes received the knives head-on and then destroyed them with their hands, while they were throwing punch after punch, getting closer and closer to the criminal. Unbreakable, gauntlet/steel punch, Panzer. They hit him in the face, at the same time. Red Riot then appeared, carrying two small children in his arms, followed by the civilians. Meanwhile, Steel arrived, with the criminal's arms tied and threatening him with a kitchen knife, so that he wouldn't come and try anything. The police and civilians began to applaud them, and the police only asked the two teenagers to go with them so they could complete the corresponding paperwork. Dynamite was the name chosen by 𝗵𝘃𝗀 Katsuki when they attacked the hospital and the hideout of the Paranormal Liberation Front. He was there when they faced Shigaraki, and he faced him with courage. Now, we have to go after the monsters. After those criminals. Because many of them are part of death row. And he turned his gaze. First he observed Shoji and Mashireo, like moonfish, like muscular. And we are here, at the academy, as if we were waiting for the situation to improve, just because we defeated All for One's other successor. I faced Yamarashi myself, I faced him in my debut. Ijiro said smiling, I managed to defeat him again and saved the people who were in that place. I defeated Muscular and Lady Nagant, Izumi said smiling, having Kyōka sitting on her lap and ignoring Aizawa's angry face. All of those we are defeating are being taken to the new underwater prison, Lemuria. With two soft knocks from the right hand, coming from the green-haired girl, the violet-haired girl stood up. Let's start class, and when we finish today, we will go after the criminals. Exactly, Midoriya, Shota said. Today's class will be short and quick, precisely because we need as many heroes out there, roaming the streets, as possible. And so, that day's class began. Dash. 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 It was already the afternoon hours and classes had ended an hour ago, and practically everyone in classes 1A and 1B, except Aoyama, who was still imprisoned, were dressed in their hero costumes, ready to go out into the streets, bring civilians or take them to other hideouts. And not only the hero academies were set up as meeting points for refugees, but heroes like 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗁, who could raise buildings in seconds, were ready to be crammed by civilians. Bakugo left UA, without waiting for anyone. He just wanted to have the glory of facing villains, just like Izuku Izumi had been doing during his time outside of Tartarus and before returning to UA. But even with that longing, Bakugo was mature enough to know what he had to do, and also to defend civilians who were caught in the crossfire of battles. Soon, a large smile appeared on his lips. Even with all his hot-bloodedness, he would be able to defeat a gang who were trying to hurt a woman and her daughter in a dark alley. Blast Rush Turbo, Cluster. Katsuki positions his hands backwards and uses explosions to rapidly propel himself forward. His brain registered everything, the positions of the civilians and the criminals. 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗁. While in the air, Dynamite grabbed one of his opponents with one of his arms, then propelled himself in a spinning motion, firing explosions with his free arm. Once he gained enough momentum, 𝗵𝗃𝗃 forcefully launched his opponent with the help of another explosion, his body crashing into another one of the criminals. One of the two subjects showed a predatory smile when he saw Dynamite approaching him. Magnificent electric explosion. Dynamite's eyes opened, while the subject was surrounded by an electric aura, and the blonde-haired teenager launched an explosion forward against the criminal, but not to hurt him, but to fly backwards and rescue the civilians, taking them out of the alley, while the two buildings and the streets, the cars and some civilians in the area, were hit by the current of electricity. The subject came out of the alley. He was dressed in a red sweatshirt, a black sleeveless jacket over the sweatshirt, and gray. "Let's see what you can do, young hero 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗵𝗃. Electric Cobra." He extended his hands forward, created a reptile of electricity, which traveled very quickly towards the young hero and the two civilians. Sweat ran down the young man's temples as he watched the reptile approach. "This is bad," the red-eyed blonde managed to acknowledge. AP shot. Dynamite extended one of his hands and used his other hand to form a circle in the palm of his outstretched hand, and then fired a blast through the circle, creating a concentrated blast beam. By focusing the path of his blasts on a single point instead of around his entire palm, the red-eyed blonde created a concentrated blast with a reduced impact area, but with enough power to successfully pierce solid concrete. And it even pierced the electric reptile. 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃. Electric lift. To 𝗵𝗃𝗃's amazement and disbelief, his enemy rose into the air, thanks to two pillars of electricity. 𝗫𝗵𝗃𝗃. Vibrating WHP, from the air, his enemy created two long tentacles of electricity, which went towards the young man. Dynamite became enraged as the WHP electrocuted him, and he began to roar in pain. AP machine gun. He began to fire larger and faster blasts at his enemy. His eyes widened in disbelief. Did he just put up an electric shield that can withstand my blasts? "You can call me Electrico, boy, and I've been on death row for more than 40 years, said his enemy. "You're not going to defeat me with such stupid strategies," and he charged both arms with electricity, while Dynamite thought of some other movement that would be useful, but nothing was working out the way he wanted. Ranji Dansu, Shiningu Sodo. Dance of Shining Swords. His enemy spread his arms to the sides and many electric bolts were launched, but they soon returned and surrounded 𝗵𝗃𝗃, starting to spin. Shiningu Sodo, Orion no Obi. Shining Swords, Orion's belt, said his enemy, now with a crazed look in his eyes. But Dynamite wasn't willing to lose. Karamiku no Bakuhatsu. Karmic explosion, and a pillar of electric energy, along with a pillar of fire, rose into the air. Dash. 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 Neither of them was standing when they were found by authorities hours later. But Katsuki was easily theorized to be the UA student whose hero license was partially charred to the side. The other subject, even if his jaw was missing, was recognized as 𝗲𝗏𝗃𝗀, someone of whom there were records, but those records were so old that no one really thought that a serial killer of the stature of 𝗳𝗍𝗄𝗏 could still be alive in the present. The UA was notified of the fight and now everyone was horrified, not knowing if Katsuki would live to fight another day. The entire Class 1A went to the hospital to ask about the health of their classmate 𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗁 Katsuki. The receptionist told them that he was still undergoing surgery and that, so far, there was no new news about his health. But I'm not going to lie to you, young people, he was in a red code when they managed to bring him in, the woman commented. Ochako was the first to shed tears of sadness and fear at the escape of the violent blonde. She felt safe when Shoto hugged her from behind. Izumi gently squeezed Kyōka's hand when she felt her girlfriend intertwine her hand with hers and began to walk slowly towards Mitsuki and Masaru. "Hello, Mitsuki-o-basin," the green-haired girl greeted softly, while the eyes of the violent blonde mother and the calm brown-haired father opened. "Masaru-ajizen." The 𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗁 couple looked at Izumi and threw themselves into her arms. The green-haired girl hugged her uncles with all her strength, while her aunt burst into tears. Through Mitsuki's mind, all those moments passed, in which Izuku and Katsuki were friends in their earliest childhood. He remembered how he tried to correct him. As he grew up and the older the blonde got, the greater his ego for his powerful Kyōsei, the greater his longing to become a famous hero. Maybe your child thought of the wrong career. Maybe that enemy. Mitsuki shivered, feeling her husband's warm arms slide around her back and pull her towards him. With the situation Japan was currently experiencing, it seemed logical that the hero academies would require their students to quickly obtain their licenses and go on patrol to keep the streets safe. Many pro-heroes had quit after Shigaraki returned from his insane experiment and when a large part of Jaku was destroyed. After Jaku came Izuku's imprisonment, his transformation into Izumi, and the escape from Tartarus. His son was a hero and died in the line of duty. Mitsuki clenched his fists as a doctor approached to deliver the bad news. 𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗁 Katsuki aka Dynamite, has succumbed to his wounds, said the doctor, with great pain in his soul. Mitsuki's scream was heartbreaking. The members of Class 1A opened up to each other, while crying in silence, believing that the 𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗁's screams of pain were something like that, like a ritual, just for them and where their screams were the only thing that mattered and that should be heard. 3 days later, 𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗁 Katsuki was buried, with all the honor and funeral ritual that a hero deserved. Nizu, Aizawa and All Might. Each of the three gave a personalized speech about 𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗁, his growth, and his flaming, heroic spirit. Ida spoke to the crowd, Ochako spoke, Momo spoke, Ijiro and Denki spoke as well. Izumi stepped forward and said a few words, in requiem for her friend and bully. 𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗁 Katsuki died as a hero, in the service of duty. The 2A students at the UA were very tormented. Aizawa sighed as he entered the classroom and looked at his students for a moment. All of them were in no mood to stay in that classroom, there was no longing to attend class, the mood was too dark. And Aizawa understood them. He truly understood the feelings that nestled in his students' hearts and he didn't blame them in any way. He knew better than they did what it meant to lose classmates. Classmates. Heroic office colleagues. Like the loss of Shirakumo Oboro or when they found out that ectoplasm had lost his legs in combat. His students had already fought the League of Villains repeatedly and also some of them had fought the Shai Hasaikai and the Supernatural Liberation Army during the last war. They fought head-on against the Second All-for-One and many of the Tartarus escapees. He ran his hand over his face, realizing that they were no longer the same children who had arrived in his classroom a year ago. They were young adults. Young adults who have fought villains in several of their representations of various criminal groups and lived to tell the tale. Midoriya Aizawa clenched his fists, his chin beginning to ache from clenching his teeth. Midoriya was betrayed, his gender and male identity were taken from him and he was fighting common criminals and escapees from Tartarus. Even being forced to steal. Forced to steal food. Forced to steal clothes. Forced to sleep under bridges, like a homeless person, or attack gang hideouts or raid houses in slums, normally used by drag traffickers both to cleanse society and to find a place where she can rest for a night. Aizawa shook his head. "Excuse me," the black-haired boy jumped and looked at Todoroki, his hand raised. "Aizawa-sensei, are you okay?" "I'm fine, Todoroki," the man with long black hair assured, who remained silent, realizing that he didn't know how to continue speaking and turned his gaze to the book, to today's topic. But he found that nothing came out of his throat. He grabbed the chair and dragged it to the front of the desk, while he took his cell phone and sent a text message to Mike. "Come to my classroom, please." He stared, the message already sent. Life, death, combat, rescue are things that are part of the daily life of heroes. Your teacher, ectoplasm, did his internship and in it, he lost his feet, while saving all the residents of a burning building. That building collapsed, someone knocked on the door, it's open. The blonde teacher with orange glasses and a LTHR suit entered the classroom. "What is it about?" Aizawa exhaled the air in his lungs. "No, they're not in the mood for a regular class. So, I'm telling them what we know about Oboro." Present Mike shuddered, his eyes widening, his jaw dropping. But he quickly regained his composure and cleared his throat, calming himself down. Hizashi listened to his friend's quick summary and nodded. "It was I who gave him the name Eraserhead and Oboro. He had the idea, during our second year, that we form our own team of heroes. The three of us," Present Mike narrated, running a hand through his gravity-defying golden hair. "He said something like, if one of us makes a mistake, then the other two must step in and correct it, but he died, long before we could put it into practice. And in that situation, Ectoplasm-sensei, he lost his legs." Uraraka asked, horrified, imagining herself using her zero-gravity to remove the rocks that were crushing her karaoke-addicted sensei. "That's right." Aizawa opened his eyes slightly, not having noticed that he had crossed his fingers. "Many years have passed, and only now, when you were in your first year, a detective named Naomasa called us to Tartarus. I used my Kyōsei, I overcame, for a few moments, the mental walls that AFO had used on Kurojiri. Everyone trembled, and there, thanks to Oboro, we learned of the existence of the laboratory beneath the Jaku General Hospital and Dr. Garaki Kyōdai, the creator of the Anomus, in this case, Oboro-kun, and he helped Ectoplasm to escape with the people who were trapped in the building, but he died. He did not manage to get out, and some time later, his body was discovered by AFO, who handed it over to Garaki. Guys, said Present Mike, if we were able to move forward, after something so serious, and we are here, in front of you and telling this, without breaking into tears, it is thanks to acceptance. And that is what you must do. Everyone fell silent. Even their teachers remained silent. Thanks to the best efforts of the heroes still standing and the tireless work of the police, Japan was still standing. All of you have experience in combat, against villains, even before your field work, thanks to the USJ in your first year. Uravati remembered that those had been her sensei's words. In your first year, you faced 3 variants of the same enemy group, the League of Villains, the Vanguard Action Squad, and then, finally, the Paranormal Liberation Front. Shigaraki Tamura's real name is Shimura Tenko, the grandson of a woman who was All Might's teacher, and his body is being manipulated by the villain whom All Might defeated in Kamino. The country is in chaos, many heroes have resigned, and if you decide to continue, then you are within your rights to go protect the streets, since all of you have your provisional hero licenses. I will only ask you, be careful, I don't want any more funerals for my students. Machi, a voice brought her out of her thoughts, and she turned to look at her boyfriend, who had his hair combed to the sides, wearing a black suit with gold straps, a dark blue belt and a red glove on his right hand with a large attachment and a highly technological wristband on his left hand. Are you ready to go? Uraraka Ochako gave her boyfriend a smile as she stood up, letting the ice and fire user see her heroine outfit. She reached out and levitated her pink glass helmet, putting it on. The sleeves were now no longer tight but bell-shaped, but they fit at the wrists. The torso was still black with a pink diamond and tight black with pink stripes. Let's do this, Steam. Not only Dekairu, Earphone Jack, Red Riot and Dynamite are capable of facing enemies. Steam nodded, and together, they began to walk slowly towards the hermetic exit of the UA. In the past, before the current disaster, this was called the UA barrier, Todoroki said. When All Might arrived to teach us how to be heroes, a group of reporters arrived and tried to interview him. Ochako put a hand to her chin and began to think about her boyfriend's words. But no one without a student, teacher, cleaning staff or cook ID would be able to get in. Her boyfriend nodded. That's what our IDs are for. Shoto was slow to speak. The reporters didn't know that Shigaraki was in the middle of that crowd of people and caused the wall to degrade, letting them in and setting off the alarms. They headed straight down the ghost streets, not bothering to turn, only turning left, next to the 𝗳𝗵𝗲 office building. Uravity's eyes widened. You're talking about when we elected class president. Her boyfriend nodded, and a second later, they saw red, but not in the sense of being angry, but literally red. They were enveloped in a cocoon of red ribbons, which soon formed something resembling heads, and inside appeared men dressed head and feet in red with black symbols on their chests. One of them turned his hand into fire and launched himself at Uravity, thinking he would have her easily, from a blind spot. But the guy forgot 3 important things. 1. Fire can be felt. You feel when you are too hot, when you get too close to the fire, so a lightning attack is rather useless. 2. The girl's boyfriend is a fire and ice user. 3. There are lessons you will never forget. Uravity spun around, clenching the fingers of her left hand as she added more and more gravity to her fists. At the same time, the rest of her body, especially her legs, became lighter, allowing Uravity to quickly advance towards him. She grabbed the wrist of that same hand wrapped in fire, with a force comparable to All Might's, shattering his hand, before punching him with her other fist, shattering his ribcage. Supido to 𝗳𝗵𝗲 𝗵𝗃𝗲. Furious attack of increased speed and gravity. The girl named her attack, only once her enemy was on the ground, and went on to repeat the same super brute force punch pattern, against other villains. Ice wall piercing the skies, attack formation, porcupine. Todoroki exclaimed, slamming his left hand into the ground, bringing in cold air and quickly creating an iceberg with hundreds of long, needle-like protrusions that destroyed the cloth cocoon. Frostbite attack, painful frost sculpture. The ice that managed to reach any ninja froze them in seconds, leaving them as ice sculptures. The cloth sphere fell apart, both heroes were intact. There's no point in telling the villains our attacks after we've knocked them out, my love, said the brunette. Steam seemed to think about it. It makes sense, when you think about it out loud. He let out an audible laugh. How many other heroes haven't launched devastating blow attacks against villains who are left unconscious and can't hear the names of those attacks that just defeated them? The 2-colored-haired boy asked mockingly. Uravity let out a breath from her mouth, which could be considered a mocking laugh. I think all the heroes have done it and never noticed. Uravity then saw her boyfriend's frown and how he launched himself into the air, with a pillar of ice, and then dropped into an alley. She saw flames of fire coming out of the alley, but she didn't worry. She just limited herself to walking quietly towards that same alley, while swaying her hips, aware that there were no more villains around. Back at UA, the pair called a meeting of heroes, teachers, and students, to discuss the confession of the guy Todoroki attacked in the alley. We discovered the existence of a mercenary organization called the Shadow Hand. Uraraka told her companions, while her boyfriend showed a torn piece of red cloth with a black symbol. He ripped it directly from a shirt of some member who was arrested. They're planning something big, taking advantage of the chaos in the streets. Aizawa looked at his students and sighed. 2 important things. 1. Security around Lemuria prison has increased. Mineta gulped, feeling quite scared. It was one thing to help bring Midoriya back to UA, continue training as a hero, and face that purple-haired guy. But another thing was, if that guy escaped, is that where all four is being held? Don't say the name. They all begged and Mineta remained silent, but he understood the reason for the terror. Everyone still remembered Kamino and the fight of All Might, Kamui Woods, Tiger and Endeavor against All for One. Aizawa sighed. Thing number 2, thanks to Todoroki and Uraraka's teamwork and field work, we have discovered the existence of a strange team of villains, who are currently being investigated by the Lurkers, the team currently consists of 𝗳𝗏𝗃, 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃, Manuel, and 𝗵𝗃𝗃, as 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃 has resigned. Not applicable. Here 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃 retreated, after being sent flying, up to 3 times, by 𝗳𝗵𝗃𝗃. Momo raised her right hand. What can you tell us about these villains, Aizawa-sensei? Little or nothing, except that they are arms dealers and even drag dealers, said his teacher. With so much chaos on the streets, these two products are sold very easily. It is so easy to sell them and for the professional heroes to overlook it, that it is scaring the commission. What's the plan? Todoroki asked seriously. Classes 2A and 2B, along with All Might and the Lurkers, will attack the main warehouse, where they keep their merchandise, Aizawa said, grabbing a remote control. Rocklock and Best Jeanist believe they have discovered where the higher-ups of these people are. They call themselves the Black Hand. He pressed a button on his remote control, the room darkened and the board became a screen, showing the symbol and displaying all the information they had on them. It's not very different from the Shai Hasaikai. They also started as the Mafia. The Black Hand is the fusion of 2 of the 5 organized crime families of Japan, and they have affiliated themselves with many low-level villains or those who are not famous, such as Moonfish or Muscular, these types of people. Wouldn't it be more appropriate for the group with the largest number of heroes to attack the higher-ups, sensei? Ida asked, not understanding what they were telling him. You may think that, but it has been discovered that this warehouse is where more than 70% of their merchandise is, and if we destroy it, then the higher-ups and the other 30% might not be enough for them to survive. Aizawa explained. When will this attack be? Momo asked. In 6 days, Aizawa said, as everyone nodded. --/////////// After those 6 days, classes 1A and 1B were at the dock. They were waiting. They wanted to gather as many enemies as possible so they could attack them and take the largest amount of merchandise. We are entering unseen, into the main building, said 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃. We have the names and photographs of the top brass. We have taken them from a computer, which I have been able to hack. We are going for them, get ready. 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃 says that a large amount of merchandise will be taken out by trucks. Vlad King whispered, the students nodded. Jiro, share your Kyōsei with Minoma, Kirishima, Tetsu, Ida, Hananuki Sato, Midoriya, Itsuka and Shishida. Go around behind and prepare to attack anyone you see, Aizawa said. His students nodded and did as they were told. Then, he looked at the rest of 2A and 2B. We'll go in when 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃 gives us the now. The students of both classes launched an attack from the front, and when the villains saw them, they activated their mutant and transforming Kyōseis. A very tall man with a muscular transforming Kyōsei launched an attack. Aizawa released his Kyōsei, deactivating the subject's Kyōsei. Red Riot and Steel launched themselves at the villain's attack, launching powerful and fast punches. The villain took a few moments to respond and start the fight. Red Riot dodged the giant's punch. Steel jumped up and landed a steel punch on his chin, while Red Riot threw a combination of punches straight to the giant's abdomen. Steel returned to the ground, placed his right hand on the ground and rotated his wrist rapidly, and with his wrist, his arm, his torso and his legs, causing the giant to fall to the ground. Dash! 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 Mudman used his Kyōsei Yawaraka, softness, sinking the legs of 20 villains, and they all screamed, while raising their arms, as the giant fell on top of them. Rule, Kodai Yui, waited, as she watched her villain, a man who was nothing more than a giant head with a steel jaw. The girl with black hair and red and white clothes split her body and made it levitate, dodging her enemy's attack. 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃 Kamori was a short girl with a slender build, with light brown hair curled inwards in a mushroom-shaped bob that reaches just below her narrow shoulders. She had a long fringe that completely covers her eyes, hiding most of her face, and her mouth is noticeably large. She wore a high-neck dress with long sleeves and fur cuffs that is decorated with a red and white fly agaric pattern that matches that of her mushroom-shaped hat. She wore pale pink knee-high boots with thick tan soles and frilly patterned with the same fly agaric as her dress, and around her waist is a dark brown belt with a large gold buckle. She created several hallucinogenic and poisonous mushrooms, making them grow, until they were the size of trees, which the villain devoured. Dash! 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 A villain lunged at the students, while rapidly spinning his arms. Spiral, 𝗬𝗫𝗁, and 𝗵𝘃𝗲 saw their enemy coming, who spun his legs, creating a tornado and heading towards them at high speed, and were glad to have such good teamwork. Spiral stood behind 𝗵𝘃𝗲, who launched his solid air to the ground, creating a square platform, and when the villain went towards them, but made contact with the solid air platform, which acted as a catapult and sent the villain flying. Spiral ran towards the platform, also being sent flying. 𝗵𝘃𝗲. Spiral fist at Mach 4, the punch cracked his enemy's armor. 𝗵𝘃𝗃𝗁, Kyōka. Hook punch, curved screw, the fist went to the jaw, sending his enemy flying. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 brought his hands to his mouth, creating a trumpet. 𝗵𝘃𝗄𝗄 𝗳𝗿𝗄𝗁. Indiscriminate discharge, solid air arrows, the black-haired man spat out several solid air arrows, hitting his enemy several times, managing to slow him down. 𝗬𝗲𝗄𝗁. Solid air crescent blade, he blew out his oxygen, while moving his head, and created a crescent of white air, which hit the villain, stopping him dead and making him spit inside his helmet. Spiral slid and hit the abdomen with all her might, destroying that part of the armor. She moved in time when Fight Fist grabbed the villain with his giant hand and sent him flying, against another villain, falling on top of him. Soon, the villains were trying to escape. 𝗵𝗃𝗄𝗁. Sky-piercing ice wall, but steam created a wall of ice, capturing them all and putting an end to the Black Hand. Thanks to the coordinated work with the police, the criminals were arrested and the UA students returned to the safety of their academy. Slowly, Japan was getting back on track. But the public soon noticed a repetitive pattern in the news. It was not the heroes they were used to who were bringing safety back to the streets and guiding criminals to the new prisons. They were not All Might Armored, nor Endeavor, Best Jeanist, Mirko, who restored order to the streets and day after day, went out to fight criminals. Instead, names like Deku, Earphone Jack, Steam, 𝗬𝗏𝗍, 𝗬𝗏𝗵𝗃𝗲, Pinky, 𝗵𝗃𝗵𝗃𝗲, Froppy, �chargeBolt, Invisible Girl, Tentacle, 𝗬𝗏𝗍, Anima Battle Fist, 𝗧𝗏𝗄𝗏 Kendo, Jack Mantis, Kamakiri Toguru, Volta-Black, Shirhai Kurwaro, Mushroom Queen, Kinemori Kinoko, Welder, Yosetsu Aways, Copycat, Minoma Nito, Metal MSTR, Tetsu, High Archangel, Kyōsei Tsuburaba, Rule, Kodai Yui, Maria, Shiozaki Ibara, Mare Princess, Tsunatori Pony, Hananuki Juzo, Bondo Kojiro, Emily. Yanagi Reiko, Draken King, Hiryu Rin, 𝗵𝗃𝗲, Fukudashi Manga, Lizardy, Setsuna Tokage, Beast, Jiroda Shishida, Mines, Narenjiki Shoda, Plamo, Kojiro Bondo, Mudman, Hananuki Juzo, Spiral, 𝗬𝗏𝗁. They were new names, appearing on news channels, in print and digital newspapers, in public videos. The world was beginning to forget others. Well, they abandoned them first. They began to forget 𝗵𝗃𝗲, Death Arms, Crust, Native, Yoroi Musha, Xless, Briarios Midnight. The era of terror was falling behind. Slowly, it was being forgotten, thanks to the new generations cultivated by the UA, Shiketsu, Isamu, Ketsubutsu, among others. Dash. 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 𝗬𝗏𝗵𝗃𝗲 aka Rikido Sato, was running through the streets of 𝗵𝘃𝗲, after hearing some hysterical calls for help, due to the presence of a villain. Where could these villains be? The brown-haired boy, wearing a yellow suit, white gloves and boots and a mask reminiscent of a Mexican boxer, wondered. He frowned. But what if all this was a joke? I'm not a joke, kid. A villain with a strange head, brown hair, dressed only in a black jacket, no shirt, blue jeans and a gauntlet in his right hand, lunged at the young man. But 𝗬𝗏𝗵𝗃𝗲 had a lot of training in combat, in many variants, with eraser head and with armored might, managing to grab the arm on which the villain wore that gauntlet and twist his arm, making him scream in pain and launch into the attack with blind rage, but 𝗬𝗏𝗵𝗃𝗲 dodged each punch attempt, ducking, jumping, sliding on the ground. As he reached his back, 𝗬𝗏𝗵𝗃𝗲 counterattacked. Dejiki no 𝗵𝗃𝗄𝗏. Reign of hyperglycemic punches. The villain had rarely felt such great pain in his back that he could only compare it to carrying a kiloton on his back. As he turned to grab his enemy, he crouched down and then quickly moved away, putting distance between himself and his opponent. But not enough, and he was grabbed by the face. His enemy's hand had grown gigantic, and soon, 𝗧𝗵𝗲 felt his nose being crushed by the villain's hand. 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗁 Release. Galactic hyperdrive. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 was sent flying, unable to control his flight, much less control his fall. But 𝗧𝗵𝗲 consumed more sugar and ran, looking for the villain, managing to find him almost at midnight, near some containers owned by 𝗳𝗄𝗍 Corporation, where he began to search for something, desperately. The young hero went against the villain again, with his 𝗳𝗵𝗿𝗺𝗺 𝗵𝗃𝗲𝗁𝗍. Sugar discharge, big candy assault. The villain did not expect the same boy, with a much greater muscle mass and strength, knocking him against the ground. While he tried to clear his mind, he was grabbed by the shoulders. 𝗳𝗵𝗿𝗺𝗍𝗍𝗄𝗧. Release. Horizontal sugar crystal cascade. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 jumped in place and gave him a double kick in the abdomen, sending the villain flying, against some boxes and some irons. Tired of taking hits, the villain grew in size. 𝗵𝗃𝗁 is a fusion of the manga titles Akira, by Otomo Katsuhiro, and Gantz, by Hiroya Oku. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 watched the villain grow in size and he gritted his teeth. He was getting tired from the constant sugar consumption and needed to defeat this guy as soon as possible. Think 𝗧𝗵𝗲, think. How to defeat him? What would Izuku do? He clenched his fist, remembering his green-haired companion's smash, leave it all, in a single and last smash, right? Like All Might in 𝗵𝗄𝗍. He gobbled up an obscene amount of candy. His muscles grew in size, the ground beneath his feet cracked. The villain let out a laugh and raised his foot, then lowered it, more than willing to crush 𝗃𝗏𝗄, 𝗳𝗵𝗿𝗺𝗺 𝗵𝗃𝗲𝗁𝗍. Sugar discharge, big candy assault. But 𝗃𝗏𝗄 unleashed a very powerful combination of punches against the sole of his foot. The monster started laughing. They feel like simple massages, brat. Thanks, I needed it. From there below, he began to burn sugar. 𝗳𝗃𝗁𝗍𝗄𝗃. Rain of hyperglycemic punches. The villain had rarely felt such great pain in his foot, making him step back. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 jumped to an inconceivable height, reaching a building, ran and reached chest height. 𝗳𝗃𝗁𝗍𝗄𝗃. Rain of hyperglycemic punches. The punches reached the villain's right pectoral, who roared in pain and began to fall backwards, crushing several buildings in the process, causing the villain to roar in pain again, as he began to run his hands over his chest, trying to get rid of the annoying fly hero, who was causing him so much damage. Only 𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗍 had managed to do something like this to him, with a single kick. But one could never have expected that a boy of that age and size could achieve something like that. His vision was beginning to blur, his strength was draining, an amused smile appeared on his face, knowing full well that he might be about to kill the villain. 𝗳𝗿𝗍𝗄𝗁 𝗵𝗃𝗁𝗍. Severe damage, osteoporosis. He felt that it was even stronger than he could have expected. He heard the destruction of the glass and knew it was not the villain. Was this what it felt like, before All Might's United States of Smash on 𝗵𝗄𝗍? 𝗧𝗵𝗲 gave a short speech and was overjoyed to learn that all the buildings the villain had taken away were empty and no one was hurt. The villain was taken to the Atlantean prison. Surprisingly, no one was angry with him for destroying the buildings. Instead, they were glad that they no longer had to worry about the villain. He was surprised when someone, with Momo's Kyōsei, created toys of him, which he had to sign t-shirts and sheets of paper. She said goodbye to her new fans and left for UA, blushing furiously. Aizawa looked at his students. I'm glad to know that so many of you are taking your work as heroes seriously despite all the things that happened in your first year. I think that if my students lacked this tenacity and longing to defend others, then many of you might have thrown in the towel, just after the USJ or even, after the summer camp. A smile lit up his teacher's face and it confused them all. It was too strange to see him smile. You demonstrated the authentic plus ultra and, Midoriya, the green-haired girl looked at her teacher, you demonstrated that the will is more powerful than the mountain, having remained sane in Tartarus. She nodded. We have information about a group of villains, who call themselves the Claw of Dusk. After what happened at the 𝗳𝗂𝗃 hospital, there are fewer heroes, so they need us. Go out on patrol and do your best to stay safe. Dash. 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 His orders were simple: go on patrol. Keep the country safe, while we reclaim the status quo, and that was something 𝗳𝗃𝗃 planned to do. She patrolled the streets, in her new hero uniform. Now that she could be visible and invisible, she was going to make the most of it and keep the streets safe. He didn't know if it was arrogance, but he approached an alley where the gang of assailants jumped on him, but he made himself invisible while he tried to make them understand that even the simple gang members needed protection against the fugitives from Tartarus. They didn't listen to her and instead attacked her. She dodged the chain wrapped in electricity and launched herself at the guy with the axe, giving him a knee. Then she grabbed him by the neck and arm. She spun him around and he was sent against her fire-wielding partner. The gang member deactivated the fire in her hands and her partner fell on top of him. Invisible Girl dodged the chain, while the gang member screamed in pain, as Invisible Girl dodged again and a tornado of fire hit the one who handled the electricity, knocking him out. Sighing a little, the heroine jumped, grabbed onto a fire escape pipe, took a run up, and fell on the fire-handed villain and the axe-wielding guy, elbowing them, then kicking them both in the head, knocking them out. What am I doing? The girl asked herself, feeling nauseous at her behavior. This was just arrogance on my part. How stupid of me. It's a shame that they were defeated, a voice said behind her. 𝗳𝗃𝗃 turned to face whoever was there. I was planning to make deals with them. It was a man with a mutant 𝗂𝗃𝗃 that turned him into a werewolf with large ram horns. A werewolf with ram horns. I deduce that you are the criminal known as 𝗳𝗃𝗃𝗁, the judge of incarnation, also known as 𝗳𝗃𝗃𝗁. 𝗳𝗃𝗃𝗁 showed his enemy a savage grin. I see you know me, invisible brat. I wonder. He pulled out his claws and showed her a cruel smile. When I kill you, will your corpse be visible or will no one ever find you? If 𝗳𝗃𝗃𝗃 was visible, then her enemy would surely enjoy wide-eyed at the speed she was going. She has wolf-like features, so her sense of smell and hearing must be far superior, and surely, stay as invisible as you want, brat, but I can hear your crazy heartbeat. Toru threw himself to the ground, while 𝗳𝗃𝗃𝗁 growled, because he only felt a few strands of the girl's hair. Toru repeatedly dodged his enemy's claws and snout. The spotlight behind me. 𝗳𝗃𝗃𝗃 thought, as she used her special move, 𝗬𝗃𝗃𝗃 Kasetsu. Light refraction. Toru bent the light through his invisible body, not only generating light from his body, but also amplifying the light from the spotlight, blinding the werewolf in front of him, making him scream. Kishu Kyojiki. Surprise charge. He threw 2 blows to the jaw, a hook to the chin and a horizontal punch to the jaw, knocking out some of his teeth. He dodged the claws, grabbed him by the tail and twisted it, placed his hands on the wolf's shoulders and used his legs to put him in a lock and cut off his breathing, grabbed his wrists to prevent him from moving. While the wolf was feeling more and more tired, his eyes were closing, the oxygen was going away and he was falling unconscious. He took his cell phone and dialed. Yes. I'm Invisible Girl. I'm in the alley of 45th Street and Sobukuna Avenue, next to the Yamaha and Movie Emporium department stores. I have a highly wanted criminal currently, 𝗳𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗁, also known as 𝗳𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗁, the judge of the incarnation. She also talked about the gang, but they weren't that important, like an escapee from Tartarus. At this, 10 patrols arrived at the scene, bringing a truck with them and placing anti-𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗁 on the criminals. They thanked Invisible Girl and left. The girl took the subway and as soon as she arrived at UA, she collapsed in the living room, while the chief of police thanked 𝗳𝗃𝗃𝗃 for capturing the gang and the villain. 𝗳𝗃𝗃𝗃 was praised by all her colleagues. But she was so exhausted, she fell asleep in the arms of a very proud Yaoyorozu Momo. The vice president elected by Class 2A was called by 𝗬𝗵𝗃𝗃, who asked her to look up information on a specific criminal, and soon she found a picture of him, a very hunched back to the point where his head is placed in front of his stomach, lanky arms and extremely short legs. A round face, with a wide mouth full of grooves that extend from the lower lip to the chin. He has small, bright eyes with cross-shaped marks surrounding them and a small triangular nose. Momo tried not to get excited, but she couldn't help it. She was about to do the same thing Izumi and Kyōka did, the same thing Ijiro did, the same thing Mashirao did, the same thing Toru had just done, the same thing that led her to bury her violent classmate, Bakugo. All the students at UA felt that their classes allowed them to maintain their sanity, and they weren't sure if that was really the case. But it was still nice to think that that was how everything worked. They went to school, and when they returned to their apartments, they could hug their families. And that was a relief for everyone. Although, for the students, the classes were much harder, they almost felt like they were in some kind of hero academy, with a strongly militarized spirit. But despite everything, they understood how necessary it truly was to have these demanding training sessions, given all the chaos that awaited them upon leaving the UA, to help restore order to the country, since Japan was now isolated from the rest of the world. Midoriya Izumi and Jiro Kyōka were dressed in shorts and sleeveless shirts, this due to the heat that was beginning to increase, due to the summer. Both were on a blanket, just admiring the artificial lake of the UA, in a comfortable silence. Kyōka ran her hands through the green-haired girl's hair. "You know, I regret not approaching you to tell you that I was attracted to you when you were a boy. I always liked you, but I never tried anything." She began to laugh. Izumi just sighed as she caressed her cheek. This feeling I have for you isn't something that arose from your current appearance, but it hit me when," the words rumbled in her throat, remembering that day when Izuku was handcuffed and taken to Tartarus, while he only swore that he was innocent. "When you were, if it hurts too much, then don't feel obligated to say it out loud," Izumi whispered, and Kyōka bit her lips, thankful for the emerald-haired girl's caresses and the refreshing breeze. "We are heroines," she said, looking at her hands. "The world needs us, and we even have to ask for permission to leave UA nowadays. There are fewer heroes now than there were almost a year ago. And it's very difficult to say that we are Class 2A, you know. It's so strange." She looked up at the sky and hugged her knees. "So strange, knowing that we all met for the first time, a year ago, arriving at that classroom, and for a year now, Aizawa-sensei is our homeroom teacher." "What is it that you really want to tell me?" the green-haired girl asked. "I don't want to say anything. We're taking back the country, faster than anyone would have thought before," she said. "Knowing that Aoyama is the traitor and that because of him, we were attacked so many times. Times in which, we might not survive. Many of us could have died, because of Shigaraki Tamura, and even so. Still, I think we are experts in fighting the Paranormal Liberation Army. I feel as if the story has already ended, Kyōka-chan," Izumi said softly, looking at the walls. "All for one is imprisoned, the second is practically dead, and Shimura Tenko has not shown his face again. Within the theory, I am no longer the ninth bearer of One for All, but of other Kyoseis. As if the task of One for All was ancient history and was no longer necessary, since its creator has been taken to a new underwater prison, and the heroes are acting to appease that outbreak of crime that arose with the escapees of Tartarus." Kyōka stood up and Izumi followed her, all the way, without asking, to the empty classroom 2A. The purple-haired girl took her heroine clothes and put them on. "So we're going to hunt more villains, babe. And when this situation is over, not only will we be better, but we're also going to make sure that never, ever, a similar situation happens again." Izumi watched her undress in front of her. And the green-haired girl also went for her heroine clothes. "We'll hunt the most dangerous ones, and only the most dangerous ones. 𝗵𝗃𝗃 and Deku will be names, feared by the villains. We'll start with us and then, we'll attract the rest. If that's the case, then we should take care of the crime in Kabukicho," Izumi said with some mockery, not believing for a second that Kyōka would take the risk of attacking such a home of criminals. Under the cover of darkness, Deku and 𝗵𝗃𝗃 left the safety of UA, heading with Izumi towards Kabukicho, an extremely dangerous place nowadays. Izumi launched an attack with a punch from the last legacy, absolute interior, one punch. Izumi's punch and Kyōka's sonic boom caused great destruction, and hundreds of criminals, who lived very comfortably in Kabukicho, were seriously injured, only to see the two heroines standing there. One guy started creating hundreds of elongated rubies, another started summoning circular saws, another put his arms together and created some kind of war cannon. But 𝗵𝗃𝗃 counterattacked. Sonic cannon, heartbeat surround. The impact of the technique wiped out a large part of Kabukicho and its inhabitants, fugitives from justice, for whom such justice that they mocked and did not believe in, had just arrived. Tonight, the Kabukicho that is synonymous with rat's nest, 𝗳𝗍𝗍𝗃 threw a punch with both of his open hands, while 𝗵𝗃𝗃 buried his headphone connector lobes into the ground and causing a tremor. They began to destroy the ground and knock down buildings, driving the criminals out of their homes, and Izumi launched into the attack, without even hesitating, trapping the criminals with the 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗁, striking with her open hand, having excellent speed. 𝗍𝗍𝗃 and 𝗵𝗃𝗃 ran around Kabukicho, defeating as many criminals as they could, some of them tied up with pipes, thanks to Izumi's super strength, others with chains, and a few who ran away just because they allowed it. The rest were sent directly to the police, managing between two people to clean up most of the most dangerous neighborhood in Japan.